Welcome to Buttonwillow Raceway Park for the Cal Club SCCA Divisional races. I'm Brian Polanski. Tristan Parker's here with us again, as always.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing great. Glad to be back. It's been a while, I feel like.
It has been a while, but we're having a good time. Just getting started. And, it is what it is, right? So let's get right to it. Our first race of the day, GT2, GT3, STU, T3, SP, and ITE. And let's take a look at our starting grid. Well, there we have them, and here is the way we're going to go today. We've got five races this afternoon, and our first one is up now. 30-minute races today, so no laps. We'll have a countdown timer here, and I'll work on getting that up here in just a second. But, it's going to be some good racing action today if all goes well. I would say it's beautiful weather. It's a bit toasty.
Yeah, a bit toasty, bit hazy as well, but that's kind of to be expected out here in the Central Valley. 92 degrees right now, which means it's probably even hotter down there on the track when that asphalt is boiling. So no good perhaps for some of the drivers. It's usually why we tend to take a break and things over the summer. It just gets too appallingly hot out here. But other than that, beautiful day for racing. Everybody looks like they're good to go here as they get started on the track and make their way around. Only 9 racers in this, so probably not going to be too intense, though the lion's share of the field is GT2s here.
Yes, some good GT2 cars, and it'll be fun to watch these guys work our way around. This is the, track 25. We call this the classic track. This is the one that has probably been used the most here, 2.92 miles. We're going counterclockwise. Not the direction most of the drivers love, but that's Indeed. What we're doing anyway. Yeah.
No, that is very true. It is, I think, probably all in all, one of the more kind of awkward ways to take Buttonwillow, but that's all good. You also have kind of a long track. I mean, you said, what, 2.92 miles today. I mean, that's quite a ways. One of the longest configurations you can get out of the Buttonwillow. So a bit of an endurance race there by all accounts, but not so bad, I guess I should say. Are you racing to laps or times here today?
It'll be timed today.
Okay.
So, that is the situation for that. And I've already, one of our 2 cameras has fallen down. So I'm not sure if I'm going to wait until the end of the race to go fix that and let you be by yourself for a little bit, which is what I'm leaning towards at the moment.
It's fine. If it happens, it happens. It's just the way it goes.
It is.
It's a 30-minute race. That's right. I was trying to get my time confirmed here as we get this Group 2 coming down the straightaway here and getting ready to start. We'll check over to the start stand. The green flag is out, and they are going an early green flag there. And they will come tearing down the straightaway here in front. Already an attempted leap from the back row there. I wasn't quite sure who that was. Might have been Robert Kelly in the number 188 car trying to slip up the inside, and they are off. So we've got our cameras here today, Brian, even the one that's upside down or on its back, which, gives us a little bit of visibility out here at Buttonwillow. One of the only things that we struggle with, I would say, is not being able to see every portion of the track. So we kind of got to fill in some bits with our imagination. All that'll be fixed when the new track is good to go and they have us on the roof. I'm not exactly sure where they're going to put us. So.
Yeah, I don't know either, but sometimes it works better than others. So we're working all of that out. New track will hopefully be opened up this fall. I have no official word on anything, but we all have our fingers crossed. We were able to get our folks out to take a little tour of the new track today.
We did, yeah.
The asphalt is done. Most of the curbing is done, and we're hoping that dries fast and cures properly. Most of the paddock is ready to go, so that'll be fun to do. So we will we will see all of that. We'll see our drivers here entering Riverside here. We're going to come up over the top of the hill here, over Phil Hill, you can see out in the distance. And then right into our living rooms here as they come into the Riverside corner for the first time here.
Yeah, things will probably shake out a little bit across the first map. And there's a bit of jostling up there at the front between Joshua Pitt and Chris Qualls. Pitt in an SP class and Chris Qualls in a GT3. So not necessarily the same sort of branch there, but certainly maybe a little bit of jockeying just to see who can claim the overall first in the field. It is worth pointing out, if you are a new watcher here with the Cow Club, it is all based on division, not overall placement. So the leading GT2, which is currently Wayne Graham, will get the first place in this race for GT2s, so on and so forth. And number 16 car there of Joshua Pitt blazing across the line. He's followed by number 7, John Stott. So lead order is maintained, followed by, of course, Chris Qualls there. Really genuinely not far behind one another, about a 2 seconds of difference between all these cars as they track their way across the line.
I am going to take a break. And I'm going to walk down to that camera and get
Good
that
luck.
thing up and going for us, okay?
No worries.
All right, I'll be right back.
We'll hold it down up here for the moment. Speaking of the new track, I did have an opportunity to drive that earlier today. That was good fun. Get a good idea of what that'll look like for our drivers. Quite windy, actually. A lot more turns in comparison to what you would see here out of the Buttonwillow current track. I don't know what they're going to call the new one, actually. Do you know that, Brian?
I think they're going to call it the Circuit.
The Circuit at Buttonwillow, that's right. I knew that had a name. I just could not remember what it was going to be. Entering Riverside there, obviously it's a big now left-handed sweeper. Usually they like taking that one on the right. We see a lot of passing coming down into that turn. We're not going to see as much of that here today because drivers aren't going to want to come down off the hill there, the number 6 turn into a number 7 turn, and then try and make the full Riverside swing. It's going to be a little bit difficult. Of course, as you come down through the dog leg, you do head up into the Grapevine and some elevation, which in and of itself, I would say, creates some problems here for drivers. Just the ability to kind of pass on that elevation. Certainly, we've seen drivers attempt it in the past, but with a little bit of difficulty, all things considered. So I doubt that we're going to see it again here for this run. Looks like Joshua Pitt has made his way past the line again. No, never mind. I have been lying to you. There's been a bit of a swapperoo here. John Yesnick has now taken first place. He's in a GT2. He's the overall leader in the GT2, and he is racing a hell of a race. A 7-point gain for the number 97 car. 7-place gain, I should say, for the number 97 car. Pretty sure it was Yesnick who I actually saw powering up the outside of the straightaway here at the very start of this, just trying to get into a position where he could make a run for the lead. Behind him, of course, is Joshua Pitt, followed by John Stott. John Stott, the current number 2 car in the GT2s. And they're going around pretty fast here in this group. We'll get a good idea of what the pack sort of looks like, per se, as they enter Riverside. Not one of our busiest weekends out here at Buttonwillow, we'll be the first to admit, but there is some good racing coming up. The one you'll want to stick around for. We got actually a split start coming up in Group 4, which is the Spec Racer Forge. 21 cars entered in that field. And then, of course, our Spec Miatas, a respectable 13 vehicles in that as well. They do so love the Spec Miatas out here at Buttonwillow. Got 5 races in total for you, groups 2 through 6. Group 1 is a track event here this weekend at Buttonwillow Raceway. If that's something you're interested in taking part in, you pay some money, you show that you're competent, I think, and then you can get out there in your own car and drive the track at, well, they were going pretty fast today. Not quite racing speeds, but it's quite a fun experience. I'll tell you what, when I was out there in the Tesla, I was feeling a little envious of them driving that new track. I was like, oh boy, I wish that I had signed up for the track event. Just see how that handles. It's good fun all around. There comes John Yesnick across the line again, followed by Joshua Pitt. To give you an idea of what our time scale is looking like here, Yesnik coming across the line there at 153.912. Our slowest time in the field so far is a 2:16 from Robert Kelly, though Chris Cool, who's in the back right now in a T3, he is understandably going a little bit slower than the rest of the pack, which is, to be expected considering the difference in category. Just as a follow-up to my previous point there about the track events, you can find all the information about them at www.calclub.com. So this is, of course, a broadcast brought to you by Cal Club, California Sports Car Clubs, a part of the SCCA. And if you're interested in what's going on in the Sports Car Club of America, you can always check out the Racing Network, which is the channel you might be listening to this on, or the Racing Network podcast brought to you by Brian Bielansky, who's currently down there trying to fix his camera. So stay up to date on what is going on in the world of sports car racing here. And what's going on the track is pretty much what it's been. John Yesnik powering around right there. He slowed down just a little bit, actually. I say just a little bit. It's a significant decrease as he kind of falls into his rhythm. 148.8373. Am I getting that wrong? Did he speed up? I feel like a fool if I said he slowed down. No, I'm sorry. He sped up. Numbers, never my strong suit here. In fact, his last lap was his slowest. So he's up to a pretty good clip right now, and usually it takes drivers maybe 2 or 3 goes around the circuit here to get themselves in a shape where they're just sort of powering along at a pace that they would like. It is, of course, for fun out there. There's no big prize pool awaiting these guys, mostly pride, which in and of itself is a very important thing, of course. Here come 2 more cars up the straightaway, very close to one another, the 62 and the 96, and that's actually a pass right there. Chris Quall is getting around Wayne Graham, despite Wayne Graham in a GT2, setting his fastest lap time there of 2:09.208. And as our drivers start to settle into their rhythms here, we're about almost just coming up on a third of our way through the race. Obviously, of course, race control has the final say in how these things go down, but a 30-minuter, it's a long haul. You'd be surprised, actually, from speaking to drivers and what have you. I know that that's considered to be a bit of a long haul. It's a little bit less rough on this group because these are all closed top cars. But, when we get our spec racers out there, what have you, and they have open tops, that sun is just beating down on you the entire time as you're waiting, lined up on the grid, as you're out there on the track. Definitely heats you up, whether you like it or not. Joshua Pitt there coming across the line. John Stott following in. John Yesnik, though, remains the leader overall here in the race and the fastest GT2. The GT2 is the only category that has multiple cars entered, so they really are the only game in town here. There's 62 car there. Chris Qualls coming across the line loudly. He's followed by Wayne Graham, also really rip snorting across. That was Chris Qualls' fastest lap there, 202.529. I hate to spit those numbers at you, but that's a good idea to get an idea of how things are going out on the track. You consider you're covering 2.92 miles in 202.529. And speed for you there, folks, or at least a good approximation there of it. John Yesnick across the line right now for his 5th lap. And traffic starts to become a little bit of a consideration here for John Yesnick, and he'll have to start making some passes. He already done so, but he will continue to do so as they carry on. Did say it was a bit hazy out there today, and I stand by that assessment. It's also very dry out on the track, which can be problematic if these cars do go off. In qualifying, specifically I think in Group 3 qualifying, we saw a couple of cars take the rough way off the track, let's say, and kick up some awful clouds of dust, and that becomes a bit of an issue. Now in a smaller group like this, probably not going to be that big of a problem just because they can maintain their spacing a little bit better. But when we get to our bigger groups and the follow-up here, something to keep an eye out on for sure as we continue on with this race. Almost coming up, just a few minutes to go until the halfway point here so far, and nothing too terribly exciting happening out there on the track. Everybody pretty much maintaining their speed as John Yesnick clocks in a 149.138. Not a bad time at all, and well ahead of everybody else here on this race. The closest to him, Joshua Pitt, a full 38.7 seconds back.
Welcome back.
I'll be ready to talk in a minute.
Well, the camera there on the main straight for you, and you've already got cars coming down past it, so give you an idea of what's what out there. I'm assuming that's the Wayne Graham Christopher Qualls maneuvers, and it sure is. Wayne Graham has got back around Chris Qualls. Those two, the GT2 and the GT3, not even really necessarily competing, but having a little battle of it. They've maintained about the same pace as one another throughout, and they've gone back and forth, though it does seem like Wayne Graham slightly getting the advantage there over Chris Qualls, a full 3-second gap, which is the biggest I think it's been so far in this entire race. Certainly something to keep an eye on there. It looks like they're having a good time out on the track as Blaine Bridges, our sole ITE, comes rolling across the start line. I say rolling, that kind of downplays it. He shoots across the start line. There you go.
We shouldn't use rolling.
You're right. Gives the wrong impression of just how fast that car is going.
Yeah. It's also like when you're on the flag net and you're a corner worker. They frown upon you saying things like, the car has refired. Don't want anything mistaken.
No, that could be a problematic statement for sure.
Yeah.
If you yell refired on a crowded
No, you want to do that.
flag net, is that against freedom of speech? I don't know, actually. Said that one to the Supreme Court.
Yeah. As I always say, there is freedom of speech, not freedom of consequences from your speech.
True. Well, looking out now, you've got that number 97 car, John Yesnick, just pounding away out there, having the time of his life. 152. He's pretty much maintaining a fluctuation around the 150-ish time, back and forth, sometimes a little bit lower, sometimes a little bit faster, but certainly maintaining pace right there. Nobody else in the field really capable of catching up with him. That's just the way it goes, Brian, sometimes in these mixed divisional races.
Yeah, different classes. The, GT2 classes clearly should be the fastest cars out here, and today they are. Then there's that Joshua Pitt SP car. SP is kind of a weird class because sometimes it's kind of a catch-all class. So you'll get some really fast cars and just some cars out there that have no other place to race, and they want to get out there and have some fun. So, but yeah, that Camaro that Joshua Pitts got's pretty quick.
Woo. Good kerfuffle right there. Somebody backfiring a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a fair term, use of the term fire. They were indeed backfiring. Let's go ahead and give you our halfway grid rundown here. Brought to you by the Behind the SCCA podcast and Porterfield Racing Brakes. Starting in first place, number 97, John Yesnick, with that impressive 7th-place climb to take that spot. In second, number 7, John Stott. In third, number 16, Joshua Pitt. In fourth, number 96, Wayne Graham. In fifth, number 62, Chris Qualls. In sixth, number 9, Blaine Bridges. In seventh, number 188, Robert Kelly. And then in eighth, number 28, Chris Cool there, bringing up the back of the line.
And with 13 minutes to go here, we'll start looking ahead to our next race. So we
Indeed.
get all that ready to go here for everybody. Like I said, 6 races today. Miata Spec MX-5 next. I don't know that we have any Spec MX-5 cars. It might just be Spec Miatas this
It's
weekend.
just Spec Miatas, and it usually is the case that it's just Spec Miatas, and that is always a very entertaining group. So that'll be something to stick around here for if you're listening. Well, we've got our Spec Racer Fords coming up after that, so more goodness there on the way. Of course, it's only going to get hotter here as the day goes on. I was just talking about it while you were down on the track there fixing the camera, Brian, but I do feel a bit of sympathy for the Spec Racer Ford drivers who are most likely going to be out there at the hottest point of the day in those open top cars just boiling away. So for their sake, I hope that everybody moves quick. They don't have to sit out there that long, because that's not a particularly fun place to be. Not that it's honestly probably much better in a Spec Miata, so it's not like there's a lot of air conditioning going on there. So it is what it is. John Yesnick, by the way, maintaining that first place spot. That Wayne Graham, Chris Qualls feud seems to have flared out a little bit. It's 11-second gap there between Wayne Graham and Chris Qualls now. So not really in danger of bumping off one another at the moment.
I was going to say our top 10, but we only have 9.
Sorry, yeah, it's so
Yesnick,
nice.
Stott, Pitt, Graham, Qualls, Bridges, Kelly, Krul, and Shoemaker. Although it doesn't look like Dale Shoemaker's made it out there
I
today.
do not think the aforementioned famous Dale has made it out to the track today. He's off being famous somewhere else. Maybe we'll see him in tomorrow. Who knows? Looks like somebody's coming into the pit, actually, or ending their race, and that is that ironic? It's Joshua Pitt.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go, coming in. So that's the number 16 car there, the only SP. I mean, he is the only racer in his category, Brian, so he's already done. He's finished. So he would come in whenever you want.
Yeah, if he gets past that 15-minute mark, that's a full race.
There you go.
So he's definitely done that.
Hot day out there. Save the tires, save yourself, save the car a little bit of wear and tear if you've had your fun.
That's right. That is right. It's a little breezy out there, too, today. Not a big deal for these cars, but when we get to those smaller open-wheel cars, that breeze can wreak a little bit of havoc for them.
We've definitely seen that at play, and I mentioned too how dusty it can get. And it's definitely a dusty day. So we already saw in qualifying a couple of cars go sliding off the track, and when they do, it is a whole kerfuffle. So expect to see some of that as well.
Yeah, there's no question when we do let a car go a little wide and it goes off, you'll know it because
You will.
It puts up a big old plume of dust. Plume o' dust.
It's good for us actually up here because we can tell right away. It's like a spouting whale on the horizon. You're like, oh yeah, he's off. Will he get back on? Usually they do, so that's the good part.
Thankfully, they don't make whale noises when they do it.
No, they do not.
If you look on our timing pylon there, you see the salmon-colored. That indicates that that's Joshua Pitt. He has left the racetrack, typically in the pits, and that's exactly what's happening now. So you'll see him fall down through the order as cars come across the line one by one. So.
Normally that purple highlight would be the fastest time of the race, but for whatever reason, the system that we're pulling from does not have John Yesnick's times being properly displayed.
Oh.
So his fastest time was actually much quicker than that, if I remember. He was, I think, 1:48. So a good, I'm so bad at math, a good 3 seconds faster.
Was that his qualifying time?
No, that was his lap 3.
Oh, okay.
So he put the pedal to the metal and then kind of chilled out a little bit. So,
Well, there you have it.
fast
yeah.
car. That's a very, when you think about it in the context of going 2.92 miles with some turns and what have you, that's very fast. So, credit where credit is due. Faster than I could manage, that's for sure.
Well, when you got 300 horsepower under the hood, that helps a ton.
It does.
You know, my little Honda Fit's not going to do that.
No, probably not. No.
Yeah. Coming up just past 8 minutes to go in this race.
Chris Quall still behind Wayne Graham, so they had their back and forth, and then Wayne Graham just sort of set the pace, and unfortunately Chris Quall's not able to really keep up there. He might have also slid off the track very briefly, I think, earlier on in the race, so might explain some of that opened up gap there between the two of them. Other than that, everybody maintaining their relative positioning here. It's just more of a series of individual drivers trying to set their own times more than anything else right now. Speaking of, John Yesnick coming across the line again. His 12th lap, by the way. He's really putting in the speed. He's pretty much a lap ahead of every competitor in the field now.
Yeah.
If not two.
Yesnick's in one of the newer body style 2021 Ford Mustangs.
Oh, cool.
Right behind him, the one John Stott, who's trying to keep up. He's in a 1986 Mazda RX-7. That's also one of the cool parts about GT2. You get a wide variety of different manufacturers, older cars, newer cars. So I think that right there is Stott in the RX-7 that just went through our camera there. It's pretty nice looking Mazda. A lot of those RX-7s ended up in production classes, F production. But if it's a full tube frame car, it's probably why it's in GT2. So
the more you know.
Have to go and take a peek at that one of these days.
I was just thinking about how I always wanted a Mustang when I was a kid.
There you go.
Yeah. This is everybody, though. You watch Bullet one time.
Oh, yeah. Nothing wrong with Bullet.
You watch Bullet one time, and you want a Mustang real bad.
That's right. And then every time you visit San Francisco, you want, can I do it? Can I do it? I can do it.
I could. That was really funny that you mentioned that, because I was in San Francisco last year with my girlfriend, and I was doing it.
Yeah.
I was just one. Everybody gets one.
Can I just get all four wheels off the ground once?
In a Honda CRV.
Yep, and know how to fit.
Yeah. Just my poor partner, just terrified besides me. But you gotta give credit where credit is due.
Right?
Yeah, you gotta. John Yesnick maintaining his speed right there, not slowing down at all. I don't really expect him to. He looks like he's going to run this to the bitter end, and justifiably so. It's not like the Joshua Pitt situation where he can kind of call it. He does technically want to win the G2 group, so he's going to keep that pace up until the very end of this race, barring some unforeseen incident. Credit as well, by the way, to John Stott, who has essentially maintained his position the entire race. He has not shifted from that second spot. Despite, I should add, having multiple G2s behind him. That'll be Wayne Graham and Chris Qualls, Wayne Graham and Robert Kelly. John Stott has consistently held his place. I mean, not on the heels of John Yesnick by any means, but given the age difference in their cars, it's not entirely surprising. But still, he's done a very good job of maintaining consistently. And I must say, all of these drivers have raced a remarkably clean race. Yep. I think there's been maybe one call on the flagging net for an off and on across 30 minutes, which is pretty good. It was honestly very good.
You know, and you've got Yesnik, who's turning laps at around a 153, and then you've got the rest of those GT2 cars in the 206 to 210 range. So not terribly hard to explain why that gap is there.
No, not at all. Yeah, I mean, having the 2021 or what have you model, I'm sure that helps a fair bit.
Yeah.
And obviously, talent. I should I'm not saying it's
hurt.
the car. Obviously, he's a talented driver. It's just certainly helps. Well, there is a bit of dust out there, so somebody's done a little bit of a off and on up by the grapevine. No idea who it was, but nothing I think worthy of being really reported or what have you.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't take much here. You could just put off one wheel there at the exit of a corner for 10 yards, and it's going to make a little dust. Three minutes to go here in this race. Still not a big enough lead, though, for Yesnik to just pull over and call it a day because John Stott's hanging in. He'd have to have a 2-lap lead to do that at this point in time. And he doesn't have that, so he'll keep motoring along.
Nah, he wants to complete. He wants his. I don't know if we're doing victory laps today. Actually, I was going to say he wants his victory lap.
I don't think we're doing them today.
I don't think I ever heard him come down on whether it was happening or not. So I'm going to assume that we're not doing it just for the sake of time. But looks like another car is coming in here, though. It looks like it'll be the end of day for Chris Qualls, the number 62, and the only GT3 in the race. I see him entering into pit lane now, so he is done and dusted, probably quite literally, actually, given the quality out there today, which just leaves the GT2s, an ITE, and a T3. Chris Cool, who has just been riding along, is not quite ready to call it quits just yet.
No. Some of these guys out there, I paid for my track time. I'm going to use it up.
Exactly.
So it's like when I go golfing. I golf.
You're right.
I see all of the golf course.
Yeah.
On my time. Yep.
People play through. It's the same thing.
That's
same
right.
concept, just a little faster.
That's right. A little under 2 minutes to go here as we wrap up our first race of the afternoon. Five more after this one. Next one up's a Spec Miatas. They always put on a great show. Don't even need a ton of them, but that's okay. We've got a good handful out here, and they will race pretty close for the whole 30 minutes likely.
Well, we're on our last lap. White flag is out. So we'll just wait for Mr. Yesnik to make his way around here.
We're supposed to get up to about 97 or so degrees was the forecasted high today.
Oof.
Tomorrow, it's going to be a balmy 91.
Oh, okay. Big drop.
Yeah.
Cool, frankly. I have to wear a sweatshirt.
Yeah, I mean, lemonade today, hot chocolate tomorrow.
It is wild to really think about how much the weather varies at Buttonwillow, because we have seen torrential downpour as well.
Yes, we have.
Cold. And we've seen you get the full gamut. It's quite funny.
Yeah. This is the time of the year, though, where it's just hot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hot and sunny most days.
Yeah, it definitely is to the point where it's just hot out here.
And if you'll notice by that camera shot, there's not much to see, or not much shaded, I should say. Not
at all.
Not a lot going on here. Is this our race leader coming at us here in just a minute? Not quite. There's more than one Mustang out there. So the second Mustang, I believe that's the Wayne Graham car. Nope, that's also an RX-7. Which Mustang is that?
My flag's still out, so... Here he comes.
Checkered flag is in the air. Pointing down towards our race leader as he comes across the line here in just a second. And there he is. There is John Yesnik.
Well, that'll do it here for the first race of the day, this Group 2. Let's go ahead and get you your full field rundown, brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes and the Inside the SCCA podcast. Your race winner and the winner for the GT2 category, number 97, John Yesnik. In second place, number 7, John Stott. In third, number 96, Wayne Graham. In fourth, number 188, Robert Kelly. In fifth, number 9, Blaine Bridges. In sixth, number 28, Chris Cruel. And then finishing the race early in seventh, number 62, Chris Qualls. And in eighth, number 16, Joshua Pitt.
All right, that's going to do it here for race number 2. Well, our first race of the day, but group number 2. We've got our track event folks here this weekend. We'll explain that in the next race probably, or at least sometime in the next couple of hours, is how you can come out here and enjoy your car on the racetrack as well. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, Spec Me Out is next. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back to Buttonwillow Raceway Park. Coming up, Spec Me Outta here. Got starting lineups here. We're already into our pace lap, so let's go right to the starting lineups.
In 11th, Gabe Estrada Jr. In 10th, that'll be number 125, Christopher Hamilton. In 9th, number 38, Carl Yonk. Alongside him, number 1, or I should say in front of him, it'll be number 10, Erica Summers. And alongside her, number 69, Joseph Bogart. In 6th, number 7, Alan Lukart the 4th. Next to him in 5th, it'll be number 25, Bryce Johnson. And then row 2, you have Clement Lee and Brett Rivetta. And then starting in the front, you have Ren Messenger, the number 3 car, and your pole leader, number 35, Evan Jacobs from Encino, California, and a 1990 Mazda Miata.
All right, we're going to come back through as the green flag finally comes out. When it does, we'll have a 30-minute race here. All of our races are 30 minutes today.
They are indeed.
We'll get our...
And this race is all Spec Miatas except for Bryce Johnson and the Spec Miata X.
There we go. We'll wait for the starter to decide whether or not they like what they see, and the green flag will go in the air.
Oh, whoa, wow.
There it is. Green flag is in the air already, side by side and racing, going down towards turn 1.
It's 4 wide coming down the straight.
Oh, there it is, right into our...
That's wild. I don't know who that is, but they're being a real naughty boy out there on the track to start this off. You're supposed to not run on the grass if you can avoid it.
Well, I'm glad that was the one camera that was working.
It's good. It's a good shot to catch. And they were doing that from almost before the start stand, so they were on that for a while.
Yeah.
Quite funny. I wonder who that was. We'll have to catch a second look coming
That's
around.
Right.
I don't know the orange and the Halloween livery right there. The orange and black.
So our phones, which we use for our cameras, are on the AT&T wireless network. And I'm told that network is down right now.
Apparently.
So that's why we only have 2 cameras today, folks, and I apologize for that.
The straightaway camera was T-Mobile. We should try and cut a sponsorship deal at this point. See who it is.
Tell me about it.
And there is some movement there for sure. That car that was running on the grass actually has done quite well for itself, and it's now in 2nd place overall. So I'll be most interested to see who that was. Certainly a bold strategy there coming out of the gate, but fortune favors the bold, or so they say, Brian, though they never tell you that the guy who said that ended up dying shortly thereafter. He did.
I'm not surprised by that.
He got crushed by a volcanic stone. So it wasn't particularly good.
How do you know these things?
Oh, that's Pliny the Elder. Got a beer named after him, so
all right.
He did well. He did well for himself in the long run. Anyway, perhaps fortune did favor him. Here we go, though. Going down the straightaway, a little bit of dust kicked out, by the way, in the grapevine. First car across the line will be the number 3 car of Red Messenger, actually. And there is the number 25 car. That was Bryce Johnson in the orange and black, who was responsible for that little bit of off and on black and orange maneuver down there at the start. Oh, a pink and black Hello Kitty car.
I love that.
I do actually love that.
Yeah.
I gotta try and get a picture of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who might have that pink and black Hello Kitty car.
I don't want to stereotype.
I'm not. I have an idea, but you're right. That would be stereotyping.
I have an idea too, but you never know. I have a Hello Kitty shirt, so yeah, you don't know. Anyway, we'll keep an eye out and figure it out. Actually, we probably could have guessed there by looking at but told you there by looking at the race order. But
Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check that car when it comes by, look at the number on the side, So I'm not stereotyping.
It's a great paint job, to be
No, it
fair. It
absolutely
actually
is.
looks real good.
It absolutely is.
You know, I was going to ask you this, Hike. I've been meaning to ask you this for a while.
Uh-oh.
I mean, I obviously haven't been out here. No. I haven't been out here for a while. You can tell me, though, are there standards in the SCCA for paint schemes?
Yes.
Or like liveries? Yeah, because I've never looked into it. I've always just kind of wondered.
The standards are very, very technical.
Ah, okay. All right. They would be.
Don't be offensive. That's the standard. That is the standard.
That's a fair one.
And the version of what offensive is very much in the eye of the beholder.
Of course.
So it is. There's not a lot that gets turned away.
That's interesting. I genuinely had always wondered. Could you just paint it some hideous color or with some hideous pattern?
Now, what's one man's hideous is another man's gorgeous.
It's true. That is very true. And there's a really tight group of three there coming across the line right now. That's Bryce Johnson, Alan Lucart IV, and Brett Rivetta. Speaking of paint jobs, Alan Lucart IV has a very distinct bright green paint job. One of the few green cars we have out there.
Yeah. And, of course, the Hello Kitty car does not have a number that jumps right out at me.
No, it's number 34 car of Sayo Haraishi. I don't want to mispronounce that. Sayo Haraishi. Again, it's a great paint job. I actually like it quite a bit.
There you go.
My girlfriend would be thrilled. The number 89 car, by the way, of Clement Lee has actually come into the pit here and is fully behind the wall. So that might be the end of the race there, which is a shame because Clement Lee is a very talented driver. He's one of the kind of stalwarts of the Spec Miata lineup here at Buttonwillow. So sad to see him have to exit early here today. Red Messenger still your overall race leader. The gap between him and Evan Jacobs was about 4 seconds, but Evan Jacobs was part of that very tight sort of follow-up group. That'll be Jacobs, Johnson, Lucart IV, and Rivetta, all within about a second or less of each other. In the case of Bryce Johnson and Evan Jacobs, it was about 0.05 of a second. They were almost nose to tail. We've had a couple of calls here on the net as well about nose to tail contact between these Spec Miata drivers. So here in the first weekend of June, they've kind of come out for blood, Brian. They're going hard.
Well, a nose to tail contact in this class, while it's not encouraged, and I think technically it's not legal, they do a lot of bump drafting in this class.
They do. That is true.
So that's while maybe not encouraged, it does happen. So
and here's that group again. Alan Lucart now has taken over the lead of that group. Evan Jacobs and Brett Rivetta behind him. This is a great race, actually, from the number 7 car of Alan Lucart IV. He usually hangs out in the middle of the pack, Brian. He's doing really well today.
Yeah, no, it's been a very interesting race so far for those couple cars up front. Evan Jacobs is right there, really pressuring Lucart for lap after lap now, and Bryce Johnson hanging right in there, too. He is the one Spec MX-5 car in this race. So technically, he is not racing for a trophy with all of these other cars out there. He is the lone wolf in Spec MX-5, which for the first time this year is a national class. And points here count just like any other race.
Really?
So it is. He may be trying to qualify that car for the runoffs. I don't know. But he is going to be out here all day long. And if he makes it halfway, he will be the race winner.
He will be. And he can call it there as well. If you had told me, I never really put 2 and 2 together, that he was the only spec, the SMX, I don't know why he was running up the side of the straightaway at the start.
He wanted to clear free. He still want to race.
He did. It's quite funny.
And in often is the case when we see these classes race together at the Super Tours, the Spec MX-5 cars are faster than the Spec Miata cars. They make their power a little different way. They draft slightly differently. But it also helps to have a bunch of them out there, and he is all by himself, racing up against a bunch of guys who are here all the time.
They genuinely are, yeah. It's a very consistent group. Spec Miata is one of our most consistent racing groups here at Buttonwillow, and they are consistently entertaining, and it's been quite an interesting little go at it here of these first couple of laps. We'll see if Alan Lukart can maintain that 4-position lead that he managed to pull out, or I should say 4-position jump that he managed to pull out, especially, as you said, with Evan Jacobs kind of clawing at his heels. Evan Jacobs, obviously a very talented driver as well. Again, kind of one of the stalwarts here of the group. Ren Messenger there coming across the line, setting the fastest lap so far at a 2:09. The 35 car of Evan Jacobs trying to get around the outside of Alan Lukart, looking at the potential for a pass there, but they'll come down into the sunset turn, which is a hard right-hander here today. Does not lend itself well to passing.
Yeah, it is tough to make that pass there, although it is one of the better spots to do it if you can pull it off. Problem is, it's still a pretty fast corner. There's not a whole lot of braking that goes into it. It's not flat out by any stretch, but it is not a hard braking corner, which is what you like to be able to get into a situation to make a move like that.
I feel like the counterclockwise combination is definitely a harder combination to find good passing spots on. Usually we see passes coming into kind of Riverside if we're going the opposite way, or, down at Sunrise is another one where people really like to pass, but doesn't really seem to lend itself as well here coming into Sunset. Looks like there's a pit coming in here as well. I'm not sure who that is. It looks like it might be Joseph Bogart in the number 69 car. Got something stuck in his exhaust, apparently. That's unfortunate.
How that happens. I wonder if he went backwards into something, because
that's weird, isn't it?
Unless he's got, and even if he does have the exhaust coming out the side of the car, that would be interesting to see how that works. Things that make me go,
We'll see if he ends his race here for the day. He's slowing his pace there along the pit lane. He might actually be done. Hate to see it if that's the case. Another Spec Miata not able to finish here, but it looks like he's stopping again before going behind the wall for one maybe last check, and that also gives me an idea of who that actually is. That'll be Erica Summers, actually. My apologies. Now I can see the number 10, and she will come in behind the wall. Her race is over for the day. Unfortunate. Another Spec Miata dropping here. That's 2 casualties so far. Hate to see it, Brian.
Yeah, well, the good news is we get to live to try it again tomorrow, and they will come out there, and hopefully they'll be able to go and get a whatever it was that caused the problem fixed, and they can come back and play tomorrow.
Number 35, Evan Jacobs, finally getting the better of Alan Lukart IV there after maybe 3 laps just playing close behind. Lukart IV, though, will maintain a close distance, 0.3 seconds behind his opponent right there. Brett Rivetta hanging back a lot more, was part of that group of 3 up there behind the leader of Ren Messenger. He's dropped back a whole 3 seconds. But again, we often see these Spec Miata drivers to kind of pull back, Brian, bide their time, look for opportunities to pass later in the race, and certainly over my time here at Buttonwillow, I've seen some explosive finishes out of the Spec Miatas when they see those kind of gaps become available.
Right. Evan Jacobs also just went purple on that lap, getting around Alan Lukart. He just turned a 2:09.578. So that is a very, very good lap here, especially in these heated weather conditions. Coming up on 18 minutes to go. Not even quite halfway yet, so a long ways to go. 2 30-minute races this weekend. Oftentimes our Saturday race is a tad bit shorter than our Sunday race, which makes Sunday more of a grudge match, an endurance kind of race, even though it's only 5 or 10 minutes longer. Today, this weekend, 30 minutes each day, so no rest for the weary.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't noticed that, but you're right. That's surprisingly a lot of racing. I mean, I know that's what everybody's here for, but it is surprising. It's easy to forget when you're not actively in a car or what have you, just how much it is kind of rough when you are out there on the track, pulling those turns, going fast and what have you. I mean, you have done you've dabbled in your Honda Fit, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it is, and it's 90 plus degrees today, nearing 100, which makes it even worse and more difficult. Some of these cars have cool suits in them, so they have a vest with ice cold water running through it to help keep them cooled off. And that is always a big help when it can happen. Now, Ren Messenger says, Evan Jacobs, I'm going to go fast lap. He drops a 2:09.476, just a slight bit faster by less than a tenth of a second faster than Evan Jacobs to answer back with a fast lap in the race. I was say fast lap is bragging rights. We don't get points for fast laps. But it does feel good when you get that whole thing taken care of.
Oh, most certainly. And I mean, it's also fun to be, going fast. So that in and of itself, and the competitive advantage, obviously, we should say, because the gap there had closed by about a second between Evan Jacobs and Red Messenger. It was obviously still a very big gap, but it had closed. That opened it right back out, putting another whole second between the two of them. So 7-second split now between those cars. A bit unfortunate there for the side of Evan Jacobs. And he does still have Alan Lukart the fourth there right behind him, hitting a .528. So he's close. That gap is not big. Evan Jacobs cannot rest on his laurels, and I just don't know if he's going to be able to find it in them there to catch Ren Messenger without the threat from behind kind of overtaking him. You only need to make one mistake trying to go fast.
And that is often the difference here is you can run, 28 perfect minutes and then make a mistake on minute 29 and end up being last in this race. So you really have to keep yourself together for all of that time. So coming up on the halfway mark here, let's go and give our full field rundown here at the mid-race recap. We've got that brought to you by the Inside the SCCA podcast.
Sure thing, Brian. Here, we'll start at the back. Number 11. That is, or I should say in 11th. That's the number 34 car of Sayo Haraishi. In 10th, number 69, Joseph Bogart. In 9th, number 81, Aaron Coulter. In 8th, number 38, Carl Yonk. In 7th, number 125, Christopher Hamilton. In 6th, number 74, Gabe Estrada Jr. In 5th, number 25, Bryce Johnson. In 4th, number 189, Brett Rivetta. In 3rd, number 7, Alan Lukart the 4th. In 2nd, number 35, Evan Jacobs. And then your race leader in first place, holding on to that pole position for the last 7 laps. That'll be number 3, Ren Messenger.
And that is our mid-race recap brought to you by Inside the SCCA. Still ahead with us, 4 more races. Math is not my best subject today.
I said the same thing earlier, so you're in good company there on that one. I was never had an easy time with the old mathematics.
It's 3 more races to go here.
endless source of frustration. That's okay.
Oh man. So that's why I'm not a business reporter.
Fair enough. You wouldn't want to. It's boring. You don't want to be a business reporter.
It's funny. I'm interested in it. I'm just not very good at the math. So it's okay. We'll do the best we can. Oh, I've still got that little mid-race recap. We'll take that down.
Well, we're taking a look here at things kind of just coming out of the midway point. Not a lot of shifting going on here. Alan Lukart the fourth, he's holding on to his position behind Evan Jacobs. Again, 0.5 seconds behind him. No real opportunity to get past him so far. But as I said earlier, you have to keep an eye on the Spec Miatas here. They find openings. They find opportunities. It's something that they're very good at. And of course, all these drivers, Alan Lukart the fourth included, are relatively familiar with one another. They know each other's style by now, Brian, because every time it's essentially the same field with or minus a couple of different additions. But, Alan Lukart has probably seen Evan Jacobs and Red Messenger race this track more than a dozen times at this point.
Yeah, very much so. These guys are all the regulars. These are the usual suspects out here. And they're always filling up the Southern California Spec Miata grids. We were talking a little bit earlier about Bryce Johnson with the Spec MX-5 car. He's out of San Jose, so he probably does most of his racing up in Northern California. I almost said North Carolina. And so, yeah, that is the situation there. and which is why it's a name we didn't recognize, or I didn't recognize, because he doesn't probably come down to hang out with us too often. But glad to have him here. Richard James, another Spec MX5 driver who is often out here with us. He is he might be covering a professional race somewhere. He is a Racer magazine correspondent.
Oh, interesting.
So that's how I got to know Richard. Richard gave me my first publishing job.
That's cool.
He hired me to be part of the sports car team back in the day. And did a little bit of work for him.
Is he hiring? Is he still hiring? Anyway.
So now he's a beat reporter. So
yeah, a couple of new faces out here today. Certainly Sayo Haraishi, we haven't seen around much before. Joseph Bogard too. I think I've only seen him maybe once or twice. So a couple of people dropping in for today's race, and we're happy to see them. As you said, it's always good to have more participants out here. Of course, if you're interested in participating in anything related to Sports Car Club of America or Cal Club in general, you can find all the information for Cal Club at www.calclub.com. And of course, you can go check out the SCCA website as well if you're not a Southern California native. See if you can find out anything about where you can get involved. We're always looking for volunteers out here at Buttonwillow, that's for sure. We got tons of stuff you can do: race control, flagging.
Yeah, tech, registration, grid.
Sound. I've always wanted to do sound.
Yeah, sound is always good. What'd you say? No. Sorry, dad joke.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So yeah, lots of stuff out there. Also, we talked about the track day. If you want to bring your street car out here, you can come in and take some laps here at Buttonwillow. There's a fee for that, but we make sure the car is safe, and you put a helmet on you, and there are some restrictions as to when you can pass and how you do it and everything, but gives you a chance to legally stretch the legs out on your car, so you don't have to worry about Ponch and John with the CHP coming after you. But that is the safe way to go racing. None of the street racing stuff. We do not. We recommend you come out and play with us instead.
It's a lot better, easier.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah. So don't want anybody getting in trouble out there. So you can find out all about that at calclub.com. Right up on the front page. Usually about a month or so before every event, all the information goes up. So check all that out.
I was just saying earlier when I was driving the new track, Brian, that I wish that I was doing a track day. It's quite fun when you get out there.
Isn't it, though?
It's easy to not really think about how enjoyable it is until you're out on the track, actually head around those turns or whatever. So, well, the order remaining relatively sedentary here as well. The gap between Ren Messenger and Evan Jacobs has opened up to a full 10 seconds. So given about 9 minutes left in the race, I don't think we're probably going to see Evan Jacobs make that up, barring some sort of unforeseen circumstances there for Ren Messenger, who has so far not put a wheel out of alignment here in this race. Alan Lukart, the fourth, is about a second back on Evan Jacobs as well. So that top three seems to have sorted itself out relatively well. And Brett Rivetta, who I was wondering, Brian, if he was maybe making kind of a holdback, looking for a position to run. I just don't think that's what's going on here for him. He's a full 6 seconds behind Alan Lukart. So might very well be that top four is relatively well hammered out here. As is sometimes the case. As the race progresses, things just settle into a rhythm, and drivers are okay with that.
Well, and the big problem for Rivetta is he's lost the draft from Jacobs and Lukart.
That is very true.
Once you lose the draft, it is very, very quickly for the cars ahead of you to check out. And in Spec Miata terms, 7.9 seconds is checked out.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So there's no question, unless one of those top three cars have an issue with 7 minutes and 47 seconds to go here, you're talking about some combination of Messenger, Jacobs, and Lukart on the podium at this point in time. Now, have I launched the announcer's curse on these guys? Don't know. We'll find out here in a few minutes.
And you were talking about that wind earlier. It has definitely picked up. You can see it kind of pushing the flags, the banners around down at the starter stand. So that is more of a factor here for the Spec Miatas than it was for some of our other cars. And certainly when our Spec Racers are out there, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. They're much lighter frames in general. Gabe Estrada Jr., by the way, should give a little bit of credit here as we go down on the order a little bit deeper. We've obviously spent a lot of time talking about the top 5, but Gabe Estrada Jr. has done very well in the number 74 car. He's risen up a whole 5 places to secure number 6, so that's not bad at all. For him, a good day out, and just on lap number 10 setting his fastest time, which was a 2:14.233. But to go back to sort of the top 5, specifically the top 3, Alan Lukart the 4th, I was about ready to say that he was not going to be able to make up that second gap on Evan Jacobs, but the last time that we saw them come past the start stand, he was really pelting. He actually had slightly closed that gap, so I would not count him out here today. That number 7 car is racing one of the best races we've seen from Alan Lukart. So he maybe has it in him here to try and get that second place over Evan Jacobs and a second place for the Spec Miatas in general. And here they come again, Speed the Devil.
Take a second. We were talking about Gabe Estrada Jr. That is a car that when I first started coming out here, that was a car that was always running at the back of the pack. And over time, he and his dad have been building that car up, and it has become a much more reliable car for one. And part of becoming a better race car driver is actually putting laps in. And when you're spending a lot of time chasing the mechanicals on a car, you don't get to spend as much time working on the craft of being a race car driver. And Gabe Jr. has done a really good job over the last 2 or 3 years of upping his game and getting the car to work as good as possible for him. And he has been able to work his way up to not quite the pointy end of the field yet, but that's going to come in time. But really good on him and his dad for that.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen, I think, pretty steady improvement from Gabe Estrada Jr. He's got a little bit of a problem, though, which is Carl Yonk is tucked in right behind his bumper right now and looking to pass. So that's something for him to worry about here on our last, probably what are going to be our last 2-ish laps, maybe 3, if we're lucky, just based on how things have been going here for time. So never let it be said that he's not given something to worry about here until the very bitter end of this one.
Well, that's the fun of these spec classes. That's the race for 6th place, and it's just as competitive as the race for, and maybe even more competitive than the race for the top 3 here. So good to see that going on there.
A little bit of bad news for Seo Haraishi. The flap on the front of their car, I should say the hood on their car, may be coming undone there, which would be unfortunate because it means you wouldn't be able to quite finish out the race. We'll see how that develops there. Ren Messenger through there, so we are heading towards our last 2 laps of the race, confirming that with race control.
Next time by, for Messenger, that white flag will come out. Then it'll be 2.9 miles to get to victory lane.
Unfortunately for Alan Lukart the 4th, he has lost a bit of time on Evan Jacobs. I just don't think he's going to be able to close it. He definitely hasn't given up on the idea here, but it's just not manifesting in the way that he would particularly like. Another position, of course, we were talking about 6. Carl Yonk, Gabe Estrada Jr. That's one to keep an eye on. Somebody, though, way off.
Oh, what? In what? Oh, yeah. No, that's a lot of dust out there in the river.
That'll be the grapevine, yeah.
Section, yep. Currently 95 degrees here, so it could be these tires are starting to wear out, too, with the heat. Looks like that car may have continued. Is that the Sayo Hariishi car?
No, that'll be Gabe Estrada Jr., unfortunately.
Oh, boy.
So that sorts that out just a little bit. Carl Yonk now moving up to 5th. Chris Hamilton coming around as well, and that'll drop Gabe Estrada Jr. back all the way to 9th. So an otherwise sterling race there, spoiled at the very end, unfortunately, but that is the way it goes sometimes out here at Buttonwillow. Meanwhile, Bryce Johnson, the Spec Miata MX-5, he's gone ahead and pulled it in. He will finish his race here as the winner in the SMX category, and he did as long as he wanted to out there.
did what needed to be done to get the points and get the job done. Now with 2 minutes to go, the big question is, does Alan Lukart the fourth have anything in the bucket for Evan Jacobs? Last time by, it was 9/10 of a second between Jacobs and Lukart. We will see what it is this time by.
That is genuinely the real question here. Still left to be determined. It looks like that gap has widened even more. Just kind of a quick Mark 1 eyeball check right here in between, and it has 1.7 between them now. I don't think you're making that up on the last lap, barring an unforeseen kind of big off like what we saw with Gabe Estrada Jr., unfortunately.
Yeah, an unforced error at this point in time would be the best case scenario for Alan Lukart if Evan Jacobs makes a mistake here. But Evan Jacobs does not make mistakes typically, so.
Another one of our stalwarts and one of our probably best drivers overall in any category. So very talented. We'd be surprised to see him put a wheel off. But, you know, all credit to Alan Lukart, the fourth. That's one of the best finishes we're going to see from him. So that was a great race on his end.
Yep, absolutely. Time is ticking away here in race number 3. We're going to have a short worker break to give our all of our volunteers who are out working in the heat a little chance to get off their feet and get some cold fluids and some electrolytes in and all that kind of stuff, so we can get the last 3 races in here after the break.
Should be seeing that number 3 car of Red Messenger soon. Looks like we just saw him come up and down through the grapevine, well ahead of the rest of his competition.
That's right. Time is going to expire on the clock just like we planned it. The clock at the top of the screen is not the official race time, but it is really close. I try to throw that thing out right when the green flag flies, and that is the attempt. So here is the checkered flag in the air for Ren Messenger as he comes across the line for the final time. Now the question is, will it be Evan Jacobs or Alan Lukart? I haven't seen anything that would give me any reason to believe that it's not going to be Jacobs next. And that is exactly what has happened.
That, I think, should pretty much settle things here, Brian. I don't think we're going to see any other major passes. That's our top 3 set. So let's go ahead and give you the full field rundown here at the end of the race, starting with your overall race winner and the winner for the Spec Miatas. That's number 3, Red Messenger. In second, number 35, Evan Jacobs. In third, number 7, Alan Lukart the fourth. In fourth, number 189, Brett Rivetta. In fifth, number 38, Carl Yonk. In sixth, number 125, Christopher Hamilton. In seventh, number 81, Aaron Coulter. In eighth, number 69, Joseph Bogard. In ninth, number 74, Gabe Estrada Jr. In 10th, number 34, Sayo Haraishi. In 11th, 12th, and 13th, respectively, all finishing the race early, Bryce Johnson, Erica Summers, and Clement Lee.
That's going to do it for race group number 3. Our second race of the day. We've got 3 more to go. They're going to come out after this short break. So we should be back right around 3:15 or so Pacific time. So hang with us. We will be back here. You're watching the Cow Club SCCA Divisional races here on the Racing Network. Welcome back to Buttonwillow Raceway Park. We are here for the Hell Club SCCA Divisional races. Get ready for Spec Racer Ford 3, Formula F, Formula FTS, and Formula V. We're going to get right to our starting grids here. Just a half a second. Race group number 4. There we go. Split start here. So we're going to start with our second group. From the back, Mark Edwards in the Formula V. Next to him, or in front of him, all of these are going to be Spec Racer Ford 3s. You've got Sophia Slowick and Maya Rosentha. Then you've got Doug Stewart and Chris Strand in row number 4. Row number 3 is going to be Mike Moshe and Denny Fostick. Lee Douglas is going to be on the outside of row number 2 with Robert Edmondson. And then your front row for Spec Racer Ford 3 is going to be Mark Ballingy and Brian Schubert. A great run for Brian Schubert there. And now we will take a look at the starting grid for the first group, and these are our Formula Fords.
Row 5 for the Formula Fords. It's Mike Callis. In row 4, Johnny Crean. Alongside him, Rodney Grabinski. In row 3, Steven Simpson. Alongside him, Edward Erlinson. In row 2, Ricky Simpson, followed by Andy Patterson. And in row 1, Stuart Patterson and Denny Renfro. Starting off there in the pole position.
I suppose I could have read that and let you catch your breath.
Now it's all good.
Our cars
Testing my lung capacity. That's
we
good.
go. There we go. Here comes our group of cars now. One of our groups coming over Phil Hill. They'll be coming into our living rooms here in just a second. Again, we're going to do another 30-minute race here. Nice thing about this camera angle is we know exactly what the flag condition is at the Riverside corner. So this is our second group of cars coming through here. Our lead group should be coming onto the front straight here any moment. And when that happens, we will throw the green flag. And so unfortunately today, folks, and I apologize, although this one was out of my control, the network of cell phone companies that we use for our cameras out here, the cell phone tower went down. So we have one lingering camera. And I have an idea how this is the one that's still working. But anyway, I have a theory. But you don't care. Anyway. Waiting to see these cars come across and whether or not the starter likes what he sees. The green flag is now in the air. And we are 30 minutes away with a bunch of Formula Fords. Really good Formula Ford field here today as we get into our first lap of this race group number 3. Waiting now for our Spec Racer Fords to come across the line in that lonely Formula V in the back of Mark Edwards, the Glamdring.
Yes, one of my favorites.
Yes, I had to look that up. That's a Lord of the Rings thing.
It is a Lord of the Rings reference.
I
It
didn't
certainly
realize
is, which is
that.
why it's very funny that they named a Formula V car after
Well,
it.
and as I've learned, there have been several different Formula Vs made by different people with
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
It's a weird cross section. There's the green flag is out for the Spec Racers. And there they go. Brian Schubert taking up that lead position as well. I should also correct myself. It was Stuart Patterson who had the pole position in the Formula Ford. It's not Denny Renfro. So my apologies.
I put the inside cars on the right because that's the way they go into turn the first
should have
quarter.
thought about that.
Sorry about that.
No, it makes perfect sense in hindsight. But then again, it's funny how there's a whole trend of little Formula V cars with Lord of the Rings names, but you get funny stuff like that sometimes. Anyway, looking forward to these two groups here, Brian, because they're both pretty good racers. Formula Ford might settle into a bit of a rhythm, but we know that the Spec Racer Fords are a very competitive bunch, much like the Spec Miata's pretty consistent field and a pretty competitive field.
There's our Fords coming through Riverside for the first time. A little bit of gap to the last two stragglers there, but the first 5 or 6 cars right up there battling through there, and now we'll see the Spec Racer Fords come through next. You can actually see them way off in the distance going through the Star Mazda corner. There they are coming up over Phil Hill now and then down Phil Hill into our viewpoint here on this camera. Side-by-side action are right there still. I think now they're starting to come to single file. They come through Riverside here.
Yeah, some jockeying going on among the Spec Racer Fords. It used to be quite easy to tell who was who because there was only one yellow car, which was Brian Schubert. Now there are three, so not exactly sure where he's fallen out or fallen in there, the pole position. Well, I'll get a better idea, I think, when they come past the starting line in just a little bit. But that main Spec Racer group, very bunched up there, kind of one on top of another, and here they come across the line. And this should give us everything a little bit sorted out. And sure enough, I think there has been some shifting in the ranks there. And it does appear that both Mark Ballingy and Robert Edmondson have gotten the better of Brian Schubert, who has sort of slipped back behind them at the moment. So there's a fight there to be had for that top three position. Little unfortunate there. Lee Douglas kind of bringing up the rear of that group, all of them relatively close to one another. The biggest gap, just 0.89 of a second between them, so that's one to keep an eye on. Meanwhile, up at the top of the pack, the Formula Ford top four, actually, very close as well. Stuart Patterson there, kind of the leader. Denny Renfro just right behind him. Got Ricky Simpson in this mix too. He was only 0.1 of a second behind Denny Renfro, so a lot of jostling to be had early on in the year in the race. Obviously 30 minutes, as we've been saying, is quite a long time to be out in those cars, so you don't want to give it all the gas you have right at the start, and you want to kind of pace yourself a little bit, and that's where some of these drivers do sort of thrive, taking advantage of people going kind of flat out from the very start. And sure enough, as we talk about it, here comes a pass. Stuart Patterson and Ricky Simpson crossing one another as they come across the line here at the start. I think Ricky Simpson might have been trying to make a move right there on Stuart Patterson. Don't know if it actually worked. Unfortunately, if we look back at the Spec Racer Fords, I hear on the net, number 197, that's Mark Ballingy, who was leading the Spec Racer Fords, took the grapevine a little too wide, went off the edge, so that may be an opportunity there for Robert Edmondson and Brian Schubert to push up. Now, I should say, I think we mentioned this earlier when we were talking about it, at least Brian and I know I mentioned it when I was up here by myself for a little bit. Coming down off of that dogleg into the grapevine is a challenge that some of these drivers don't necessarily have very often. It's a lot of speed and then up into an elevated turn, whereas if you're going the other direction, you come down off of that hill into the dogleg. So definitely some recalibration there, and I think today we've seen most cars go off up at that number 12 grapevine turn, so definitely being felt here by these drivers. That said, Robert Edmondson maintaining his lead here. Mark Ballingy 0.6 of a second behind him, and then running not far behind that, Brian Schubert. So the top three remaining very competitive there, with Lee Douglas again in that sort of fourth place spot in the Spec Racer Fords, bringing it together.
Yeah, that grapevine section's really, really tricky, and it's actually one of the good passing zones because you really do have to slow down to make that left-hander, and then you've got a couple of little right, it's like left combination to get to I-5 going in that direction. And it does also feel like grapevine is a little bit off camber, so if you do put a wheel off, it can tend to be look really impressive because you tend to put more than just a wheel off when it happens. 24 minutes to go in this race number 4. 2 more races to go after this one.
Only 3 laps in and already a lot of shifting here, even among the Formula Fords. Ricky Simpson moving up to the lead position with the fastest lap so far, 155.223. Stuart Patterson there holding on to second place, but Andy Patterson was nipping at his heels coming across the line. They might have actually shifted position right there. And then Denny Renfro has dropped all the way back down to the back of that leading pack alongside Steven Simpson. Back in the Spec Racer Ford category, Robert Edmondson now in the lead. Mark Ballingy dropping back behind him, and Brian Schubert looking for an opportunity to get along, playing it kind of safe here so far. Denny Fostick, by the way, trying to creep up on Mike Moshe, but here we come across the line again for those spec racers. We can update things a little bit. Brian Schubert has slipped back by a whole 2.3 seconds, but Mark Ballingy keeping the pressure on Robert Edmondson, and that is something that could develop into a bit of an issue here for either of those drivers. Usually, Brian, you see the number 2 and the number 3 driver, in this case Ballingy and Schubert, sort of working together maybe to get around the top, but there's a competitive streak there that I think is not going to allow that.
What, they're competitive? Shocking.
That's one we've seen Mark Ballingy and Brian Schubert go at it a couple of times. They both have yellow cars, so I wonder if that's the basis of the rivalry right there.
I know not of which you speak. Competitive, but also friendly. So, until the last lap.
Till the last lap. Must say it is dry and dusty out there.
Yes, it is.
I walked over to the bathroom earlier and I came back and I was like, ugh, my mouth was dry. It was hot.
Yeah, it's a great beach day. Not necessarily a great day to be racing cars.
Great to have a pool, but we don't. So
That's right. That's right.
And so you see now some traffic because there's some overlap here between the slowest Formula Fords and the fastest spec racers. So you actually saw coming through the dogleg Johnny Crean getting a little bit mixed up with Robert Edmondson and Mark Ballingy. Brian Schubert sort of tailing them as well. Lee Douglas, by the way, doing a great job there in the number 2 car, just holding on to kind of the tail of Brian Schubert and not letting him have any peace of mind. Meanwhile, that gap just continues to widen, but Brian Schubert, he's got a little bit of distance here for himself because Mike Callis, one of the Formula Fords, is in between him and Lee Douglas, so that has given him a little bit of breathing room here. And I saw Lee Douglas signaling to the pits with his hand as they came by, so I don't know necessarily what's going on there for the number 62. Ooh, somebody's getting the stick waved at him. Who is that? That's number 112. That'll be one of the Spec Racer Fords. I'm not actually sure who that is. That's Sophie Slovic there, getting the black waved at them. Not an actual black flag, just the stick at the moment, Brian.
That's the naughty stick. That's the you've done something wrong. We want to make you know that we know you've done something wrong, and we'd like you to not do it again, stick.
There you go.
Yep. So
you've been told, so
yes.
Just keep it in line, I guess, is the takeaway. Sorry, I stepped on your foot there.
That's all right.
Not a lot of room up here in the announcer's box. Again, that'll all be fixed when our new track opens. I don't know exactly how, but it will.
I'm not sure how that's going to get fixed.
Oh, hush. It's all milk and honey over there. I've got quite a mental image of what that's going to look like, and I know that I'll be disappointed, but hope is a powerful emotion.
I love it.
Up into the grapevine, the Spec Racers go. That pair of 2 has really pulled away, Robert Edmondson and Mark Ballingy. Poor Brian Schubert started with such a good position, came off a good qualifier, just can't hold on to it, so his misfortune sort of compounding here as time goes by. We might have lost one of the Spec Racers here as well. I'm not sure exactly who it is. It's Douglas Stewart, a number 71 car. I see him. He's in the pit lane. He's behind the wall, so it looks like his race is done for the day.
Hey, it looks like our network might be coming back up because we have another camera up.
Oh, that's exciting. There you
Look
go.
at that.
Ramp. Look at that.
That's one that went MIA.
There are cars out there.
There are cars out there.
I mean, technically, we could just play that on loop, that one shot, and they wouldn't know any better. We could be making all of this up.
So I see that our timing pylon has Maya Rosenthal at the top there. That is clearly a timing and scoring technological snafu here. Let me see if I can maybe kickstart that, get that refreshed.
I don't know that you're going to be able to, because on my client as well.
Is it looking that way as well?
Yeah, starting at the top. Not the case. Mia Rosenthal is not in the first place. Unfortunately, I think had to drop out of the race here today after lap 6. May actually still be going. It's a little confusing. These things happen. Just a little bit of a glitch in the matrix right there, for lack of a better term.
That's a good way to put it, because some of this is just very, very foggy science to me.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I remain kind of a little bit impressed by the whole way in which these times are tracked, and the I think it's RFIDs, right, that are used and all that sort of stuff. RFID is kind of like Bluetooth to me, Brian. It's just indistinguishable from magic at a certain point in time. You know, like, how does the RFID connect? I have no idea. Unfortunately, somebody whose magic I think is over for the day. Poor numbers. I want to say that's Mike Moshe, but we'll get a confirmation in just a second. Number that is Mia Rosenthal right there is off the track. Smoke, dust, I'm not sure exactly which.
Right.
Looks like they're back in the race. Something happened mechanically there with the car. I spoke about compounding misfortunes for Brian Schubert. The same seems to be said here for Mia Rosenthal on the number 64 car, so you hate to see it.
Yeah.
So,
16 minutes to go here as we click through our laps here. Time ticking off the clock. Got our network seems to be slowly working its way back up.
yeah, unfortunately, the misery sort of compounding here for the number 64 car. Mia Rosenthal is off the track here at turn number 1, so just coming out of Sunset, I believe that is. So, it's just a bit of a rough day there for that car. A rookie driver there as well, so unfortunate to see a bit of a rough outing at the start, but sometimes you just got to get the bumps and knocks out of your system.
That's right.
Whether you like it or not. Meanwhile, Spec Racer Ford, some non-rookie drivers here. Robert Emerson maintaining his lead at Spec Racer Ford 3 group. Mark Ballingy behind him. Unfortunately, Brian Schubert, who started in pole position, has dropped a whole 7 seconds back behind Mark Ballingy, which with 15 minutes might be really hard to make up here, but we're about halfway through the race, so we'll go ahead and give our full field rundown at the midway point, brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes and the Inside the SCCA podcast. Starting at the back, it is number 64, Mia Rosenthal, in 20th place. In 19th, number 74, Mark Edwards, followed by number 59, Thomas Kapitnik, followed by number 112, Sophie Slawick. In 16th, number 62, Mike Callis. In 15th, number 35, Johnny Crean. In 14th, number 49, Chris Stan. In 13th, number 69, Denny Fostick. In 12th, number 16, Mike Moshe. In 11th, number 2, Lee Douglas. In 10th, number 9, Brian Schubert. In 9th, number 197, Mark Ballingy. And then in 8th, your leader for the Spec Racer Ford 3s, that'll be number 22, Robert Edmondson.
And I was saying, there you have it.
We've got 7 more
recap.
Cars to go.
Oh, there were more?
Yeah, we got the Formula Fords. Let me run through those really quick.
Taking a breath. I thought we were done.
Oh, no, I was running out of steam. Number 27, Stuart Patterson. In 5th place, number 8, Edward Erlinson. 4th is number 57, Steven Simpson. 3rd is number 11, Danny Renfro. In 2nd, number 28, Andy Patterson. And then in 1st, number 29, Ricky Simpson. And I think that is the way that it will stay here, at least for the immediate future, Brian. That is the full field rundown at the halfway point. Quite a field.
There you go. So, Yeah, Ricky Simpson's a guy. We're trying to get him on the podcast for a long time, and he's in school, so Wednesday nights are tough for him. But sometime in the next month or so, we're going to get him on the show, and he's a great story. I met him last year. They were jamming on a race car back in oh, there's a puff of dust there. They were jamming on the race car late one night here at the racetrack, and I stopped by to say hi. Nice family out there, a couple cars. Him and his uncle, I think, are the drivers, and they were working on the cars, and they were chasing some sort of an electrical problem with it. I mean, if anybody has ever worked on race cars or any car in general, electrical problems are a royal pain in the tuchus. But they were chasing the problem. They said, yeah, we think we got it right, and he started fifth and drove us right to the front and won the Sunday race. So that's how I kind of found him, and it was kind of fun talking with that family. So I've been trying to get him on for a while. But we're going to get him on the podcast here in just a little bit. And really, really nice young man and a good family. A typical SCCA racing family.
There you go. All good folk out here.
Yep.
If you're interested in becoming one of those good folk, you can volunteer out here at the SCCA or get in on the racing. If you're interested in Cal Club in particular, you can find all that information at www.calclub.com. That's CALCLUB.com. Happy to have as many volunteers and or racers out here as we could possibly have. More the merrier, honestly. Always use more volunteers, Brian, that's for sure.
No, never. We got plenty. Just kidding. I'm going to get run out of here if they ever hear me saying that. No, lots of opportunities to come out here. We call it playing with cars, fun with cars, and it's a good time. We appreciate anybody who comes out and gives us a hand. So.
Well, the gap widening there, and the leader of the Spec Racer Fords, Robert Edmondson, pulling ahead of Mark Ballingy by about full 3 seconds. Brian Schubert way back there now, so that group of three that started out quite tight has spread out to the ends of the earth, theoretically here, at least in racing terms. Lee Douglas is about a second behind Brian Schubert, so not a huge threat to take that potential third away in the Spec Racers, but if Brian puts a kind of wheel out of place there, no doubt Lee Douglas is well happy to pounce on it, but I'm sure the same could be said of Mark Ballingy and Robert Edmondson. Up in the Formula Fords, it's sort of a similar story here. Ever since Ricky Simpson overtook Andy Patterson, he's essentially maintained about just under a 2-second lead here, Brian, not really giving up anything on the track. The blue and yellow flag coming out right there for probably number 64, not entirely sure. Also, I've been doing this for like a year now, and I don't actually remember what that flag means. So,
that
looks like the flag of Bosnia. That's all I can think.
That is the move over flag. That is the indication to the car that it's being displayed to that the car behind it is coming up a little faster than they are, and that they need to pay attention to their mirrors. And usually during a race, that means that it's you're being lapped by a faster car. So that is the move over flag. The check your mirrors flagged. So it doesn't really mean move over, but sometimes it kind of really it's a suggestion.
There's a bit of an issue here. Number 27, Stuart Patterson, the leader of the Formula Fords, has body work coming off.
Well, that's not good.
And he has dropped very far on that last lap. He might actually have to go in here and call it a day, which is genuinely quite unfortunate because he was doing very well in that leading spot. He was at a full 1:55, his fastest lap. He was tearing it up after a good pass as well. You hate to see it, honestly. It looks like also one of the other Formula Fords, Mike Callis, the number 62 car, or Caius, maybe, I'm not entirely sure. He's had to come in here as well, so that's unfortunate. And for his race day, just keeping an eye out here on the car of Stuart Patterson, the number 27, see if we can get a view of him maybe on any of our cameras or just coming in, see if he goes into the pit. It's definitely an unfortunate end to the race for him if that's the case.
And I'm looking on this off-ramp camera. We can actually see cars going into the pits, so I will keep an eye on that as well. I believe the Stuart Patterson car is the yellow I call it the Bumblebee car. I believe that's Stewart's car, unless he's driving something different.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to correct myself. I've heard some different information. It is the 2-9 car of Ricky Simpson.
Oh.
Who is in the lead, who has the bodywork coming off. He is maintaining his pace, though. The
Right.
number 2-7 car of Stuart Patterson has exited the race. Okay, there we go. All right, everything's clear.
Now we're on top.
Somebody said it was 2-7, it was 2-9. All good.
Got it.
Looks like Ricky Patterson, Ricky Patterson. I'm getting all confused now. Looks like Ricky Simpson, despite the bodywork coming off the car, is not daunted at all because he is still maintaining that leader position here on lap 11.
And by almost 3 seconds. So he's got a 3-second lead over Andy Patterson, and then Denny Renfro. He is 4.7 seconds back. Those are FFTS cars. There's a special club tire on that group, so it's a regional only class here at Cal Club. Your first Formula F car in this group is Edward Erlinson in the 8 car, and then our top 3 in in Spec Racer Ford 3 at the moment is Robert Edmondson, Mark Ballingy, and Brian Schubert. And then, of course, we've got Mark Edwards, our 1 Formula V car, and I thought he was going to say there he is, coming right into our view. But not. Let's see if he's on our other camera, possibly. Let's look here. I think that... Yeah, it's hard to pick up at the moment. Ricky Simpson is in the silver Formula V. We'll pick him up here as he comes. It'll be about, he just crossed the start-finish line, so it'll be about a minute for him to get to us here on the Riverside camera. Mm-hmm. Do. I'm going to make a quick call to the grid
Just
here.
kind of waiting at the moment to see how this plays out in this last sort of 5 minutes. That's the do right there. Because the race is still sort of in contest for a couple of these cars. You see now the Glamdring, that'll be the Formula V. That's Mark Edwards. He's called it for the day. He's the only racer in his category, so he doesn't have to worry. I'm a little bit interested to see if Andy Patterson can make up the difference on Ricky Simpson. And I thought that might happen there, Brian, when the bodywork was coming off, but it hasn't really seemed to slow down Ricky Simpson at all. His last lap time was only about 0.4 seconds slower than his fastest lap. And then down in the Spec Racer Fords, you see things pretty much staying as they are. I mean, Robert Edmondson is, not really being hampered by Mark Ballingy. Brian Schubert now has Rodney Grabinski, a Formula Ford, in between him and Mark Ballingy. So that probably is going to hold. I mean, there is a world maybe where Mark Ballingy makes up a 2.6 second difference between him and Robert Edmondson. I just don't know if it's the one that we're going to be in.
There's Ricky Simpson coming right through our view there. He'll come off on the right. That's that first car now going down towards the final corner. That's all. When you're looking at this camera, it leaves our view here just for a second, coming into and out of the off-ramp. And then when the cars come back into our view on the right side of the screen, that is the final corner before the main straight is what you're looking at for those who might not have been here before. And so that is the view that we have here.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a messy race, honestly, if I'm being truthful with you here, Brian, which, I mean, maybe to be expected. It's our 21 car field. It's a competitive field. The number 64 car, Mila Rosenthal, has actually come in, which makes her the 5th car, I believe, to not finish on the day. So that's Mark Edwards went intentionally, but still 5 cars off the track, down to 16 out there right now. Had a couple of reports of contact, had some drivers going off multiple times. It's been a bit messy. Sometimes, though, that's what happens with the Spec Racer Fords or the Spec Miatas. It's usually one or the other.
Right.
Has just a very kind of everybody's all over the place sort of day. But I feel like that's kind of what has been delivered unto us here in this race.
So I just saw 3 cars, Spec Racer Ford, side by side, are all bunched up going into Riverside. We'll pick them up here when they come through the off-ramp section here, just a few seconds down the road here. The good news is if you have to have 2 cameras, our 2 cameras are about halfway away from each other on the racetrack, so kind of works out, all things considered.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a cluster here with, by the looks of it, Sophie Slowick and Thomas Kopitnik.
Okay.
Who are very close.
There's our race leader. That was Ricky Simpson coming through. 2:50 left on the clock, so not too much left in this race. Probably next time by, there'll be 1 lap to go. Oh, white flag is in the air.
There you go. You called it.
That seems a tad bit early to me, but like I said, my clock is not official, although it's usually fairly close.
Yeah, it looks like we're on the last. Lap here, so I would venture to guess, if I was a betting man, which I am sometimes, but not today. I would venture to guess that everything is going to stay about what it is.
Yeah.
I don't bet on car races. I only do video poker, so it's a bit of a different beast, but I don't think there's going to be much change in this so far. It's interesting because sometimes these Spec Racer Fords, and we mentioned it a couple of times, they're very competitive, Brian. Sometimes it is a neck and neck race up until the bitter end, and there's lots of positional changes. Sometimes the first 5 laps, they sort it all out.
All the difference in the world. That was our race leader, that silver Formula F that just went through our screen. Last time through Riverside for that car.
And give Ricky Simpson credit, Brian. He did not start in that first place position. He performed probably in about, I think, lap number 3, that really fast one that he set there. And you'll see that 155.223. He pulled that super well, got his lead, and held on to it throughout all of these laps.
Yeah. We should see him coming into our view here for the final time. And I believe that this will be him. Yep, there's that silver Formula F, Ricky Simpson. Yep, he has done everything he needed to do today. He will come past the line in just a second here. The checkered flag will be in the air.
Waving his hands as he goes past.
Absolutely. That's a big, big win.
A little bit of a dip there, actually. It was just slightly worrying when he took one of his hands off the steering wheel. His car turned sharply in towards the wall, but he pulled it back around. So, good day for Ricky Simpson right there. A great race overall. I mean, obviously, Andy Patterson did some good work out there as well. Denny Renfro and Steven Simpson, they all deserve credit in that top 4. Let's see how it works out here in the Spec Racer Fords. They should be coming to their kind of natural conclusion shortly. If we're not already there just yet, it sometimes gets a little bit confusing here at the tail end. We got Robert Edmondson and Mark Ballingy in the following him. Keeping an eye there on the sunrise turn, looking. And don't know what happened to him. I kind of expected them to be coming around that corner a little bit sooner.
No, they're still coming.
But as ever, my estimation of distances remains incomplete.
Looks like that should be Edmondson and Ballingy right there.
Indeed it is.
The Mark Ballingy and Brian Schubert cars look quite similar to me.
Oh, easy there. Well, it will be Robert Edmondson across the line, but Mark Ballingy killed a cone on the way in, took it real wide coming out of that sunrise turn. And here comes Brian Schubert to round out the top of the Spec Racer 4. So let's go ahead, I think here, Brian, and give you the full field rundown at the end of the race, starting with our overall race winner and the winner for the Formula Fords. That's number 29, Ricky Simpson. In second, number 28, Andy Patterson. In third, number 11, Denny Renfro. In fourth, number 57, Steven Simpson. In fifth, number 8, Edward Erlinson. In sixth, number 22, Robert Edmondson. In seventh, number 197, Mark Ballingy. In eighth, number 9, Brian Schubert. In ninth, just to confuse me, number 81, Rodney Grabinski. In 10th, number 2, Lee Douglas. In 11th, number 16, Michael Moshe. In 12th, number 69, Denny Fostick. In 13th, number 35, Johnny Crean. In 14th, number 49, Chris Strand. In 15th, number 112, Sophie Slowick. In 16th, number 59, Thomas Kabitnik. In 17th, number 64, Mia Rosenthal. And then we had 4 cars that did not finish or went in early: Mark Edwards, Stuart Patterson, Mike Callis, and Douglas Stewart. And that'll bring us there to the end of this full field rundown in our Group 4 race.
When we come back, we'll have our second to last race of the day. It is our production cars and our T4 car, also a GT Lights car, and I believe that's everybody there. That's all next when we come back. You're watching the SCCA Cal Club Divisional races here at Buttonwillow Raceway Park. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back to Buttonwillow Raceway Park Health Club SCCA Divisional Races, Group Number 6. Race Number 5, Group Number 6 is up next. And we are ready to go here. Let's go with our starting lineup. Take it away, Mr. Tristan.
Sure thing. Group 5, a little small here, but that's okay. Still could be quite interesting. Starting in 8th overall, we have K. David Snow. Next to him, number 98, Gary Murph. Number 6, it'll be number 21, Jack McEacham. In 5th, number 33, Philip Clark. In 4th, number 5, Darren Murdoch. In 3rd, number 2, and that'll confuse you, David Lecren. In 2nd, number 53, Sean Fisher. And then in pole position on the inside there, number 25, Bryce Johnson.
All right, we're going to get this thing underway in just a few seconds here. And the starter likes what he sees, puts that check green flag in the air. And here we go for the next of our 30-minute races here. All of our cars go barreling across the line. I don't know that we have all of them here today, but we will find out when they cross the line the first time here. So this is one of my favorite classes here because, let me pull out the entry list. Gary Murph is in that green Volkswagen Wabbit. Yes, I can't say it without calling it a Wabbit. Sorry, folks.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Actually, the Rabbit, I apologize. That's K. David Snow. The Opel GT is Gary Murph.
There you go.
So, and his sponsor is his wife. So
fair enough.
K. David Snow, it's his wife and Eurosport. In that order, by the way. In that order.
Yeah. That's quite funny.
That's awesome. Yeah. So anyway, I love this group because this is where you get this incredible mix of new cars and older cars. Of course, obviously the Opel and the Volkswagen, but it's also interspersed in. We've got with the Acura Integra, Subaru BRZ, a Mazda RX-8, along with a Mazda RX-7. So all bunch of really, really cool cars. And let's throw in a Ford Mustang for good measure.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not throw in a Mustang?
Who doesn't love a Mustang?
Who doesn't?
Unless, of course, you're a Chevy guy like me.
There you go. Fair enough. I was talking about Mustangs earlier, so it all.
Speaking of Mustangs, that's Chris Qualls there.
Wheels within wheels. Anyway.
And he is really, really slow now coming out of Riverside, growing across the backstretch here. If he does not get that car around, hopefully there's a nice cutout here where he can pull it in and stay out of the way. And I'm going to guess he's going to make that left turn. Good job, Mr. Qualls. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
The funny thing is he's not on the list. So he just snuck in there. Maybe he didn't do qualification.
No, he's right there, Christopher Qualls.
He wasn't on my list at the start.
Oh, he wasn't, huh?
No, he snuck in.
Well, I screwed up then. Awesome.
No. I don't think that's on anyone. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Quite funny how he is the only what does AS stand for?
A sedan. Yep.
Okay. He is the only A sedan out there, so.
Yeah. It's possible because he was out earlier and he may not have qualified that car. Maybe we know why he didn't qualify the car now.
Oh, no.
But a lot of times, if you're out there at least once and you have a second car to race, you might you'll get a chance to start the race, but you won't necessarily be able to.
I wonder what that is going to do.
As far as?
Just kind of sitting there.
They'll
just a tow.
Yeah, no, they'll just leave him there till the end of the race. He's not in any danger of being hit by anybody.
I think they're getting they are getting the tow out there, maybe. So we'll see. It's quite funny.
Yeah. The one thing you don't want to do is when it's almost 100 degrees outside is leave them in that car.
Oh no, they'll cook. Yeah. No,
so
that's bad news.
So if nothing else, I don't know where they would pull him to at the moment. So.
Yeah, he's in a bit of an awkward spot to get him all the way off in traffic. I mean, it is a smaller group.
Sure.
We could maybe see it. I don't know. They're assessing it. It's rare, Brian, that we get a first, kind of look at this going on. So it's probably far more fascinating than it actually is.
Exactly.
Realistically. But usually when somebody spins out and has to be towed, they're at some, they're behind trees. So, and there are some lovely trees here at Buttonwillow, but they do unfortunately serve far better as doors than they do as windows. And it makes it a little bit hard for us to see things that are going on at various points. So, but yes, I think you are correct. It looks like they may be holding off on towing him for now. Is just going to get him out of the car and get him out of the heat. Unfortunate there for the blue and yellow Mustang, but hey, these things happen. It's the way of the beast. Every once in a while, your car just doesn't want to work.
We got Bryce Johnson is our leader right now in STL. That's a guy who is not on my early entry list. That is
I've seen that car before.
SMX car. So what he's doing is he's double dipping.
He is.
So he ran that car in the Spec MX-5 race. Now he's back out here trying to win STL with it. So that's a very common crossover between those two classes. So a late entry into this race, which is cool to have because that gives us more cars to talk about. I agree. It's been a day.
It's just it's a sigh more of just I don't know. I don't actually know where that one came from. Just a generalized sigh right there. I like to see the little bit of movement there between Burf and Snow. That's fun stuff up there in the lead. Or in the back of the pack, I should say.
I imagine those two guys have been racing each other for many, many years out here. So
yeah.
You started this morning in Orange County, didn't you?
I did. Yes, it's been a bit of a day, to be honest. So. The far side of Orange County too, right before you get to the Inland Empire. Ooh. So I've been, quite a ways. That's all good. Sometimes you just got to drive to get to these races. Ironic.
We're one of the many volunteers that come up here to do this, and very cool. You know what? You can join us up in the broadcast booth as well if you have any interest.
Why not?
In wanting to do a little motorsports broadcasting. We've got a place for either up here in the booth, or if you could be down on pit road, or heck, I'd give you my position in the booth, and I'll go down to pit road. I'm good with that. You got to be able to direct the cameras too, though. So, or maybe I would just direct the cameras.
Get you a press jacket.
Yeah, absolutely. With one of those little hats with a little press card.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be my favorite. That would be mine.
They should give you a combat vest like they do in Warzones. Get you down there in the pit. Exactly. Crew. Why does he have a flak jacket on? I don't know. Felt better. It felt safer down there. Yeah. But, it's interesting you mentioned Bryce Johnson double dipping and how it is kind of common. I mean, he's definitely taking this a little bit easier than he was taking. Ironically, despite the fact that he had no competitors in the Spec Miata race, and he has competitors in this one, right. He does actually seem to be taking this a little bit easier. He's actually dropped back to second, possibly. He has. Sean Fisher's overtaken him.
There you go. Real quick, want to mention you can see just to the right side of this camera every once in a while, there's a yellow flag. It is not being displayed. That's how the flagger holds the flag when it's not in use. I just have this camera right next to the flag station, and you can see her right there waiting at the ready in case something happens, and hopefully it doesn't. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you get a live look at how flagging works as well. Never let it be said it's not educational content here.
Absolutely.
On the Racing Network.
Absolutely. So.
The number 1 car now, or the number 53 car, I said, in first place. That's Sean Fisher. He's doing quite well for himself, overtaking Bryce Johnson. A 1.168 gap now opened up between them. That's a 2010 Mazda, that's a 2008 Mazda RX-8 for reference. He's also one of our out-of-staters. We've got a handful of people who sometimes come from out of state or out of region. He's from Las Vegas, so he's driven, speaking of coming from Orange County, he's driven away here as well to be a part of this race. So good on him to bring his STL class out here and get some reps in.
That's right. You can either bet your money away on the strip, or you can living lost wages here, putting your money into your race car.
Yeah.
Love it.
Probably more rewarding to race the car, I would say. Just on balance, having never raced a car but having gone to Vegas. I would say, I imagine.
Definitely think there's a better chance of winning here than there is at Vegas.
Yes, that is for certain. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Again, so yeah, from someone who likes the video poker machines, that's very, very true. But yeah, it's always good to see out-of-staters come down. I think obviously too, we have in this race Bryce Johnson. We talked about him a little bit earlier when we were talking about Spec Miatas. He's also out of this region. He's coming from the San Francisco region. He comes down from San Jose. So our two race leaders right now, or our leading pair, I should say, are both people who are not Cal Club locals. So good on them for getting out here and getting involved.
Well, and this is our final race in Southern California until the fall.
Correct.
Because it's just too dang hot.
It's too hot. Yeah,
We're going to be up
unbearable.
Up above 90 today, well above 90, may even get to 100. Let me pull up the weather at the moment.
Yeah.
It's 96 degrees, and it's actually saying that we've hit our high. So didn't quite get as hot as it was supposed to, but 96 is still pretty darn warm.
It's dry, and it's like I said earlier, it's dry and it's dusty. It's not a pleasant to have to walk around or to sit in a hot car or any of that stuff. I mean, that's why we were talking about earlier, they don't keep the driver in the car.
Right.
Though it does look like they have actually hitched the car up to the tow truck, so they are ready to roll that out as soon as they can. It's just they're probably not going to do it, like you said, until the end of the race. But yeah, it's not a particularly pleasant sort of experience out there. It's one of the unfortunate aspects of a very dry Buttonwillow heat is that it does get very kind of like dusty as well. So,
well, and they'll give that driver the opportunity to either stay in the car if he wants to, or he can jump out and sit in the air-conditioned tow truck until the end of the race.
For his sake, I hope he chose the tow truck.
Well, you know, some of these guys are fit as a fiddle, and if his if his cool suit's still working, then everything's fine.
I forgot about the cool suit.
Yeah. So, and it looks like they've got him right to the point where they're going to.
They might actually try and bring this tow truck in, and they're talking about looking for a gap. So, best of luck to them. Our rescue the right word? Yeah. Our rescue crews are top class here at Buttonwillow, absolutely top class. So, completely trust them to figure that out in the best way possible. I mean, so many of our volunteers out here at the Cal Club are actually genuinely top class. And again, if you want to be part of that team, that's just a quick look at www.calclub.com. That's CALCLUB.com. We'd be happy to have you out here at Buttonwillow. Meanwhile, Sean Fisher maintaining his lead over Bryce Johnson, but Bryce Johnson has put on a little bit of speed. His fastest lap so far there on lap number 5, 2:08.976. He's a full 0.8 seconds behind Sean Fisher, looking for an opening. So Mr. Fisher certainly has his work cut out for him there in the lead.
Yep. I'm fortunate enough to be able to travel to some of the races around the country with the Super Tour, and I call all those races or most of those races when I'm not here. And, our ES crew here is some of the best in the country. All of our workers here, but our emergency services crew is top notch, so.
Yeah, and I've seen them be very busy in the past, so they've done some great work, and here they are. Speaking of, looks like they're going to get this car in. They've taken an opportunity now while everybody's over on the other side of the track to maybe slip that tow truck in, easy as you please, and there you go. So the car is retrieved. Well done, them.
Well done.
Good job. And that'll be Christopher Qualls in the number 73 car off the track and out of this race. Should also say Darren Murdoch did not take the field here today despite qualifying, so maybe we'll see him out there tomorrow. Who knows? Sometimes you get cars, they run fine in the morning, Brian, and then when you're ready to do your race in the afternoon, suddenly they don't want to run anymore, and that's just
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I think you do.
Maybe a little.
I wasn't even referencing that, but you're right. I know. I think you might be versed in that, unfortunately.
There might be a story or two to tell over an adult beverage.
The fickleness of the cars never ceases to amaze me, I must admit.
Yeah. So we just had Craig Carter go around the Opel and the Volkswagen. Craig Carter is out here, and I don't have him on my list either, but that looks like a BMW, maybe a old 3 Series BMW. It's not a 2002.
I think you'd have a better eye for it than I would.
Yeah, and when I look at the our timing and scoring, sometimes it has some of that information in it, and when you show up on race day, sometimes that info doesn't get entered in, so helps to register at least a week ahead of time if you can.
Yep.
But sometimes people just don't know what their life, work schedule is going to be, and they might get a last-second chance to come up. So we welcome them nonetheless. Gives me a little less to talk about, though. And, it's all about me, Tristan. It's all about me, my friend.
Yeah, they don't necessarily make our jobs easy for us, I must admit. But it's all a little bit. Kind of slow down there at the back, but close.
Don't use the S word.
No, I mean, it's genuinely very close. I mean it to kind of highlight that they have sort of formed their own race within a race at the back end. There's a gap between Craig Carter and Jack McKechnie, but the gap between Carter, Murph, and Snow is very small. It's 0.095 was the time we got between Murph and Carter, and then Snow is less than a second behind Murph. So it's actually fun to watch them kind of go at it, because often we only see the Opal or we only see the Rabbit. We rarely see them kind of going with cars that are of a similar kind of category. So I'm enjoying watching them sort of play around back there, and I do genuinely wonder whether Snow is waiting for his moment. He's fallen back a little bit farther than he would like as we see him comes down the dog leg, but maybe he'll make up some of that difference as they come up into the Grapevine. And it looks like one of the cars might actually be pausing here. It took that turn awful wide coming in the Grapevine. I tell you what, Brian, that Grapevine, the slope and turn continues to be the bane for the racers out there today. That was Sean Fisher, the race leader. He mocked up right there.
Oh, there you go. There you go. We're going to see that gaggle of cars now coming into our view here in just a second as they come towards the off-ramp. So that red car right there, that's the Opal. Right behind him is Gary Murph. And then that's an RX-8 there right behind him. There's two RX-8s in the field.
That's Sean Fisher.
So Sean Fisher's trying to work around those slower cars without messing up their battles and also without messing up his own.
Oh, he's already messed up. He really hit that Grapevine turn very wide. That was no good for him, and Bryce Johnson has opened up and taken that lead.
Yeah, now the question is, if it's now a 7-second lead for Bryce Johnson, that's the mistake that you always don't want to have happen here when you get to this stage of the race. But now we want to see if Sean Fisher can make up for that mistake. He's got half a race to do it. Let's do our midfield rundown while it's mid-race.
Sure thing. Well, starting at the back here, it's number 146, Craig Carter, who's just come into the pits and is going behind the wall, so he's over for the day. In 7th, number 23, K. David Snow. In 6th, number 98, Gary Murph. In 5th, number 121, Jack McKechnie. In 4th, number 2, David Lecren. In 3rd, number 33, Philip Clark. In 2nd, number 53, Sean Fisher. And then in the lead, number 25, Bryce Johnson.
That is your mid-race recap, brought to you by the Inside the SCCA podcast. You can watch that every Wednesday night live at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific time. And then it lands on the Racing Wire podcast network on Friday mornings, bright and early, 6 a.m. on the East Coast. So if you're driving to a racetrack on a Friday, then listen to that Inside the SCCA podcast is a great thing to do. You can also listen to it on the way home on Sunday, too. I mean, I don't care when you listen, but got to listen, right?
Got to listen. It's all very good. I mean, it's great content, very informative. If you're interested in sports car racing, it's a great place to go and get well familiarized with kind of everything that's going on out there.
Our guest this week was FE2 national champion Russ Turner. Next week, we're going to talk about the Solo Nationals, which are coming up in September. Got some tidbits of news and notes to catch up on for all those autocross competitors who are working their way through their season to go to the Nationals. So we'll catch up with that this next week. And then I've got a very, very special guest coming up later in June, an absolute legend, multiple motorsports Hall of Famer. He has a he has a very famous cat. And anybody who's been around the SCCA for a long time probably has just figured out who I'm talking about. But yeah, that's going to come up later. We'll have a time and a date a little further down the road, so I don't want to tease it just yet. But I just did.
It's exciting.
Absolutely, I cannot wait.
Good stuff. It'd be fun to take a look at all of that and learn about a famous cat. Everybody loves learning about famous cats, I've been told. So Race continuing, by the way, pretty much as it was. Sean Fisher has made up 2 seconds on his gap that he had with Bryce Johnson, but he's still a good 5 seconds behind. That's going to be a tough task, though. If he could make up 2 seconds in about 2 laps, that's not bad in terms of pacing, given how much time is left. Philip Clark is holding steady. He's basically in a race of his own right now, as is David Lecren. Jack McEachern, too, just kind of floating in space. Gary Murph, David Snow, and Gary Murph and David Snow, though, they are kind of keeping one another honest. They're in the back, though. They're sort of third person who was in that group, Greg Carter. He is that number 146 car that had to come in on the pit lane there for unspecified reasons. So it's just the two of them again in the back, and well, we'll see. We'll see if K. David Snow ever tries to get around Gary Murph. That'll be something to keep an eye out for here as the race progresses. But other than that, everybody's just having fun out there right now. Brian, pretty straightforward race.
Yeah, 11 laps, or 11 minutes to go here. It's probably going to be about 5 laps, maybe 4. Still some racing to go.
Well,
6 cars to the grid. Group 6 cars to the grid. For your race, Group 6. Wins and things.
there is, of course, one last race here on the day. That'll be our Group 6, which is the quote-unquote wings and things. All sorts of fun in there. Formula Atlantic cars, for example, they'll be in that race. Everything that you want to watch there at the tail end of the day, but that will be our last race of the day here, as it is starting to get later in the day. The sunset not for a while, but we don't want to push right up to the edge of that. There are, of course, no lights here at Buttonwillow, so
Bigger worry is racing in the heat.
that as well. Yeah, I do feel unfortunate for the drivers here today, because on Saturday here they do have to race basically at the hottest part of the day. Tomorrow our races get started a little bit earlier. Our first race will start at 12:05, so we knock about a whole hour and a half off of our start time, I think. No, more than that.
Yeah,
off
almost
of our start
an hour
time.
and 45 minutes, pretty much.
So that means that they'll have a much sort of easier day of it in terms of the heat.
And it's supposed to be cooler tomorrow, so a couple of good things happening there. So
there you go. Makes it a little bit easier. And yeah, it is unfortunate to have to take that break over the summer months and not really be able to come back here until, what is it, September, I think, Brian?
Yep.
But, it's the way it goes. Don't want anybody to kind of cook out here in their cars. Well, I'm starting to wonder if September in and of itself might be a bit of an issue these days, because last September was almost as hot as like mid-July, if not more so out here. So
that first race in September tends to be a little on the sketchy side. And actually, I think it's October this year.
Might actually be.
Now that you know what, let me call up the schedule because I have the power to do so.
It's good. It's good chat regardless. It is something that we have to take into account, that shifting sort of summer season that is affecting California, pushing kind of our hot months back.
Yeah, so actually, we don't go back to racing until October 19th.
Wow, that's a long time. That's 4 months.
But we smash a lot of races into the first 6 months of the year.
It is true.
And it's similar to what they do in the Midwest or in the North when they smash a bunch of races from from April 1st to even May 1st through the end of October. So it's I think everybody kind of has the same length of race season. It just may be chopped up during different parts of the year.
Hey, I got to pick your battles.
Right.
As it were. So
because the Formula V's don't do well on studded tires, so that's why they can't race those in December in the Midwest.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, that would be cool.
It would be. I had not
ice racing.
Ice racing. I hadn't thought about it kind of in the reverse, if you go out to the north of the country or whatever. But yeah, you'd still have those issues, just a different kind of inclement weather.
Yep.
So
I did a little ice racing back in the day in Wisconsin.
Oh, it sounds fun.
It was
challenging. Man.
It was challenging. Yeah. So.
Well, there's nary a hint of ice here at Buttonwillow. It is dry as a bone as
Let's
Number
keep it that way.
33 car, Philip Clark, comes across the line here. And again, everybody's sort of fallen into their rhythm now. I don't think we're going to see any major shifting in this order until this race is finished out. About 7 minutes to go here. And, you know, sometimes when these 30-minute races, they do sort of settle into this pattern. And for us up here in the booth, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but certainly the drivers down there on the track are having a good time. And that is, of course, the priority. So
that is what we try to do. That is what we try to do. Got one more race left today. It'll be a good one, of course. If you like some of the old school cars, you're gonna want to check out the next race. We've got an A Sports Racer, which is something we don't see very often. That is a regional only class, and that is a Wolf GB08 F1. So. And it's
quite a mouthful.
It says a 2018 model, so that's interesting. I want to see. That's going to be Scott McPherson, and then there's also an old school Swift DB5 Sports 2000. So those should be cool to see on the racetrack. Always every race weekend, there's always like 1 or 2 or 3 really kind of eclectic, cool cars. So I would put those two in that category. So
How interesting.
yeah.
Look forward to seeing that. I do love the old kind of funky cars that we get out here every once in a while. They're always very fun to see in action because you just don't see them anywhere else.
Well, and that's one of the cool parts about coming out to the racetrack is, you know, you can watch the racing on the track, but you can also walk right up to every single one of these race cars in the paddock. You know, stick your head inside, take a look, and you can usually they'll pop the hood and let you look under the hood as well, as long as you're not taking a sneaky camera in there and taking pictures for the competition. But, yeah, lots of opportunities out here to do that, and especially if you got kids, bring them out here. If you got a kid who's car crazy, this is the place to come. You know, you might even find someone to let you sit in their race car, which would be really cool for a kid.
Oh, you very well might.
Yeah. If you are bringing your kids, though, go to your sporting goods store and buy these little foamy earplugs to put in.
Oh, yeah, definitely do that.
It is quite loud out here, and that is one of the things that kids sometimes say they don't like.
I had taken to wearing noise canceling headphones when I'm down in the pit or near the pit because it is can be quite loud, as one would probably imagine being at a racetrack. But it's one thing to kind of in the abstract, you know, Brian, know that it's going to be loud. Another thing entirely when you feel the bass rumble of some of those engines in your chest.
Yep. Taking a peek at the timing and scoring here, Sean Fisher is now only 1.5 seconds back from Bryce Johnson, and there's, I'm going to guess, 2 laps to go here. So there is still time for Sean Fisher to make up for that mistake, or if I'm guessing it was a mistake. I don't think he was pushed off the racetrack, but he is right there trying to make the pass. And is this that battle right now coming through? I think it is.
Very well might be,
I believe that is your first place car of Bryce Fisher, and right behind him is Sean Fisher. I'm sorry, Bryce Johnson. Right behind him is Sean Fisher, and we will see whether or not they can get that pass done here.
I got to give all credit there to Sean Fisher. He had that rough kind of off and on.
In the lead.
And that was about 6 or so laps ago, and he's managed to make that difference up. And Bryce Johnson, who was running free and clear for a long time, now has to fight for his position right there. That is a battle and a half.
Yep, so Fisher's able to get around. So the white car was actually Fisher. The orange and bluish car was Johnson. So we'll take a peek here as they come over the hill to see if Johnson has any response to John Fisher here as they come through these final probably lap and a half, I'm guessing.
I would say so, yeah. I think the next time around we're going to see that white flag out, and this is a pressure now on Bryce Johnson to make something happen here, because losing that space to Sean Fisher has to be, I don't know, genuinely rather frustrating.
I bet.
All things considered, especially considering he, pretty much won clear. And if I was in his position and I somehow knew about that big off and on, I think I would be thinking that I was pretty much safe at that point in time. It was a whole almost 8-second gap there for Sean Fisher, who has just pounded his way back into this race.
So now the one thing I will say is that Sean, and they're going to come through our view here, the white car up front, that's Sean Fisher. Right behind him is that Bryce Johnson. Now the Sean Fisher car is the RX-8. That is purpose-built for STL. The car behind him is the MX-5 Spec
Correct.
MX-5 car, built for Spec MX-5, not for STL. Often competitive in STL, but when you've got one car purpose-built for the class and a second car double dipping, you know, not completely surprising that the RX-8 is a little quicker. And here they come into our view. But I got to tell you, Bryce Johnson's hanging on, not letting him drive away.
No, he's definitely not. I mean, but we're kind of getting back to where we were at the start of the race, which is Bryce Johnson just slightly behind Sean Fisher, but unable to make up the gap. And the only reason he was able to make up the gap the first time around was because Sean Fisher put a wheel out. So if it carries on as is, Sean Fisher should hold. We are on the last lap, and all credit to Bryce Johnson, 0.3 on the clock. He's very close to Sean Fisher. So Sean Fisher has put in a Herculean effort to get back to that first spot. Just has to hold on for one more lap, and this does matter because this is for STL points. They are competing within their division. It's not like we see sometimes with cars that are of different classes. This is actually important for both of these racers.
Well, and the next question I have is, did Sean Fisher burn off his tires trying to catch Bryce Johnson for 5 laps? Yeah. I'm sure he was trying to put down one qualifying lap after another to try to catch that number 25 car, and he finally caught him. But now, is there anything left on those tires, or are they overheated and sticky and greasy, or not sticky but greasy as they come into these final few corners here? We're going to see those two cars come up over the hill in just a second. And we will see if Johnson has been able to do anything with Sean Fisher up front. And I believe these are those two cars coming right at us right now as they come into Riverside. And nope, those are not those two cars. Now there they are, coming over the hill
looks
right
like
there.
Sean Fisher has opened it up, coming down the dog leg too. We're going to see that just after this.
Just a little bit here. And now we'll get one last chance to see them here as they come towards us here on the off-ramp. Final set of corners here before they get on the main straight and head down towards the checkered flag. This should be the Opal and the Rabbit. And then the next two cars coming by, you're going to see the white car is Fisher and the orange car is Johnson, and it doesn't look like Johnson's got enough, but we'll give him 2 more corners. And before they make it official,
here we go, coming out through Sunrise. We'll see which one manages to pull ahead. It does look like Fisher's holding on to it, but not for lack of effort by Johnson. Johnson trying to kick to the outside, but it's a done deal. Out comes the checkered flags being waved most impressively there. 2 checkered flags, no less, as Sean Fisher takes this race. I think that'll about wrap us up here for group number 5, so we can go ahead and give you the full field rundown, starting with our race leader, number 53, Sean Fisher, battling back to take that first place spot, followed by number 25, Bryce Johnson, followed by number 33, Philip Clark. In 4th place, number 2, David Lecren. In 5th, number 21, Jack McEachern. In 6th, number 98, Gary Murph. And in 7th, number 23, David Snow.
all right, that's going to do it for our full field rundown. We're going to be back in just a few minutes with our final race of the day here, folks. So stay with us. You are watching the Cal Club SCCA Divisional races here on the Racing Network. Stay with us. Welcome back to Buttonwillow Raceway Park. Group 6 is about ready to get their race underway. Let's get right to our starting lineups.
And here we have it. Starting at the back here, you have Kim Wilcox in roll number 9. That's the number 2 car. In 16th, you have Jeff Anderson. And then inside him, number 34, Johnny Crean. In 14th, number 57, Nicholas Coe. Alongside him, number 9, David Freitas. In 12th, number 10, Richard Gray. And in 11th, number 89, Ben Valentine. In 10th, number 2, Thomas Brown. Inside him, you'll have number 18, E.J. Abbott. In 8th, number 5, Scott McPherson. In 7th, number 24, Jace Petty. In 6th, number 64, Noah Hambai. In 5th, number 3, Mark Peller. In 4th, number 7, Daniel Swanbeck. In 3rd, number 84, Jerry Dutch Schultz. In 2nd, number 87, Troy Shooter. And then in front row pole position, number 37, Corey Condit from Scottsdale, Arizona.
And as you can see, there is our group coming out of the final turn, going down towards the potential green flag. And it is in the air, and we are underway here for our final race of the day. Of course, I'm about 5 seconds late on the timer, but hey, we're close. As I always say, it's not the official time. That is the unofficial race stream live time.
Good enough. Good enough for government work. There, as we bring our race day here to an end with a big field, 17 cars in this one, Brian. A mixture, too, of all sorts of classes. A lot of FCs, I think, are for, what is that, Formula Continental is the most prominent group here. But you do have a mixture, some FE2s and ASRs slipping in there, and then a pair of S2s as well. So some diversity out on the track, which means things maybe get a little bit confusing. But the real race within the race here will be among those FC cars. Mark Peller is currently the leader of the SCs, but that FCs, but that could all change here, and as it usually does. Today, pretty consistently, I'd say the first 3 or 4 laps have sort of dictated the placement of the end of the race. We had a couple of shifts, for example, in our last race, Fisher coming back from behind after a bit of an error. So we'll see if we get anything like that here among the Ford Continentals.
Yep, those Continentals are always, when there's a bunch of them, nice and strong field here. And here they come going through Riverside for the first time under full power here. Really nice to see a big group of wings and things out here. We're going to get our race action underway again tomorrow at around 12 noon, 12:05 or so Pacific time. So hang out with us there. Here they come. These are our fastest cars here this weekend, pretty much. So, and that usually means that the last race is really quick, except for the fact that we're all on time. So it's still going to be 30 minutes, but they're going to get more laps in than most of the other cars.
Yeah, I was just going to say that they are genuinely very fast, and you can kind of tell that even coming in just on the first lap. I mean, our fastest time here is a 1:51. So putting on the speed, and that's just getting warmed up, essentially. Your tires are just warming up on that. So we'll see them definitely pick up a little bit. It's Corey Condit in the FE2 who remains kind of the dominant racer here, but the gap between him and second and third, that's Daniel Swanbeck and Dutch Schultz, is not very big. It's actually about 0.374 and 0.531 respectively. So something to keep an eye on right there. Troy Shooter, by the way, came in second in qualification, and he is way down. After that first lap, all the way down in number 80, or number 87 is all the way down in 11th. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but a bad start for him nonetheless. We'll kind of just keep an eye here now on him and also just that backfield in general, see if he can kind of work his way back up through it, because certainly he's got his work cut out for him now.
Here they come up over the hill. That is what we call Phil Hill out there. 3 cars broken away now out front. And then the rest of the pack will snake its way over and around Phil Hill and then through Riverside. There is that A Sports Racer there, and there's and there is the Sports 2000. So those alternative classes that we talk about a bit. There are your leaders now coming through the off-ramp. Those first 3 cars, Condit, Swanbeck, and Schultz, as they come across the line here for the second time, I guess. Yep. Already stringing out this field a good bit here.
Yeah, so many Van Diemen's out there. Glad to see them.
Yep.
I don't make them anymore. Well, I mean, they do, but I think they call them Elons now, if I remember correctly. They changed the name. At some point in time in the 2010s, I think they swapped it up. It's a bit of a shame, but hey, these things happen. There is a 2018 Van Diemen out there, so they are not. It might be the last of the breed, such as it were, because there's a 2016 Elon NP01. That's Richard Gray. He's racing one of the ASR cars. He's out there as well. But yeah, Van Diemen, good British brand, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So always fun to see. I do quite like the Formula Continentals. It's really cool to see that many of them out there, because this group can vary in size here, Brian, but 17 is a good number of cars in this group, and they are fast. This is as close as you get, I think, to what people think of when they think of car racing, which is obviously a bit of a very narrow view of it, but it is probably the closest we get to it out here. And they're all very talented drivers too. Some names I definitely don't recognize, which is always good as well. And some people who have actually come from quite far away. We have 3 San Francisco drivers in this, or San Francisco region drivers. And then most interestingly, it's Jace Petty, the number 24 car. He's in a 2005 Van Diemen. He is all the way from Oakland, but not the Bay Area Oakland. He's from Oakland, Illinois. So he's come quite a way. Don't know quite how he ended up in this one, but he is a member of the Illinois chapter of this SCCA. So it's not an accident.
And he's 15 years old.
Is he really?
15 years old.
Wow.
He is one of the young and up and comers.
Good for him.
So, yeah,
Good for
definitely.
him.
And he is fast.
He is fast. He's tearing around out there. They're all heating up, and it's really interesting to see how they build in terms of speed, because you'll see Dutch Schultz he's hitting his stride at a 147.485. Every single Formula Continental, almost every single car in this race, by the way, has now gone to their fastest lap on lap number 3. So really the speed is building here.
Yep.
And already many of them well under their qualification times or coming closer to the mark that they set during quals.
Still 23 minutes to go. It's an eternity in one of these cars, especially when it's 95 degrees outside. You might think that with an open cockpit, you're going to get a lot of air, and when you put your helmet down and you close the mask, close the visor, there's not a lot of air. Not much at all.
It's dry. It's dry, gross air. It's hot air getting blasted into your face. So it's not a refreshing breeze from a fan either, even if you were getting it. But yeah, it's often hard to kind of imagine, if you've never sat in a race car, you've never worn a helmet, you've never been that focused, for a very long amount of time. But yeah, it's a thing. I mean, you get that helmet on you, you get all your kit on you, you're sitting in the car, and you're entirely focused on all the various mental calculations that you have to be making constantly when you're in a race car. And it's a draining experience. There's a reason that race car drivers at a professional level are all, just as fit as any other professional athlete, because it requires quite a bit from you.
Absolutely. Yeah, no question at all. An astute observation.
Definitely, too, with these guys. I mean, they might not be playing for all the marbles. They might not be under as much pressure. Certainly, there's a lot more room to breathe, right? It's not like if you lose this, you're losing millions of dollars or what have you. But certainly, they're all competitive, and there's a certain edge to it as well. When you've invested, a good amount of money and time into a race car like this, you don't want to come out there and just not do anything. So that plays into it as well. Curious to see if Jace Petty pulls ahead any further than he already has. The young driver out there has already climbed 2 spots so far in the race. Mentioned Troy Shooter in the 87 car here earlier. Started very high up coming out of qualifications. Dropped about 9 places. He so far managed to make up 3. He got around, I believe, Ben Valentine, EJ Abed, and Richard Gray to put himself at 8th overall here, and about 5th among Formula Continentals. So he's still got some work cut out for him, but he certainly made good progress at a very early stage of the race. 4 laps down already. It feels like they've been going for quite a while, but realistically, it's only been about 8-9 minutes. So
yeah,
deceptive timings right there.
Yeah, Jace Petty's been running a lot of Spec Racer Ford 3 in the Super Tours.
Interesting.
So I'm not quite sure where he picked up this ride here for this weekend, but it's cool to see have him out here.
Yeah, that's got to be a bit of a transition. A lot faster.
And look at that. Dutch Schultz now takes the lead here in the 84 car. Corey Condit pops down to second, and Daniel Swanbeck is now third.
A little bit of shifting and jostling there. Formula Continental car taking the lead. Corey Condit, of course, who was the leader. He's in an FE2, so a little bit of a different class. Troy Shooter, by the way, climbing another place. He overtakes Noah Hambai there as they come towards the line. That ASR going up. And, he's doing that, I think, purely for pride at this point in time, Brian, because the only other ASR in the race is Richard Gray, who we already passed a long time ago. So he's fighting for nothing but pride to climb back into this race. I'm sorry, he's an FC. I got him confused with Scott McPherson. Ignore me.
And a little bit of heat in the tires. That first lap that we were talking about, a 151, and Dutch Schultz just went purple with a 147.0, almost a 146 lap.
He's gone purple.
Let me take a look here. At what the track record is for.
Well, it's worth pointing out in qualifying, I believe Troy Shooter was a 146.5 and Dutch Schultz was a 146.7. So they were setting blistering times during qualification.
Well, and the track record is a 143.3.
Wow.
So that's what they're shooting for in Formula Continental. The track record in FE2 is a 142.4.
Christ alive.
Yeah, and
not to blasphemy, but good Lord, that's fast.
Yeah, the temperatures are a big part of this right now. It's very unlikely that they're going to come close to that when it's 95 degrees outside.
Yeah.
If you look at those two times, one was set in early May.
Yeah.
Which could have been May gray for all we know out
Yeah.
here. For those of you who aren't from California, May starts every May day starts gray, and then the sun may come out later on.
It's hazy today.
Yep. That FE2 time was dropped in February when definitely it was very unlikely that there were 95-degree temperatures.
Don't tell Dutch Schultz, though, because he's at a 146.9 now.
Nice.
So he's just climbing.
That's right.
But yeah, it's May Gray. I had that actually coming in today through the grapevine up along the 5. It's just driving through clouds, basically.
Yeah.
Which is always fun.
Awesomeness, yes.
Just you and the road and gray on either side of you.
Coming up on 18:25 to go here. If you're enjoying what you're seeing today, we'll be back here tomorrow doing it again right after noon.
We will do, yeah. It'll be another set of races there, starting a little bit earlier, like we said, which is better for the drivers. A little less boiling out there in terms of the heat, but no practice tomorrow either. They are straight to qualifying and then straight to races. They're not fooling around.
And I will have to check. My guess is that the times tomorrow on the grid will be set as a whatever session you've done your best time in, whether it's in qualifying today, race today, or qualifying tomorrow. I will double check with our awesome timing and scoring folks to get the answer to that question, but that's usually how things work. Here comes your leaders going through some slower cars now, already making their way around. It's always easier to pick your way through lap traffic when you are the leader.
Does seem to be the case.
You get a nice blue flag from the flaggers, but sometimes the slower cars don't realize that right behind the leader might be another car trying to get through too. So that is often the bane of the second place car's existence.
Is a sight easier when you do have somebody telling them to get out of your way. Yep. Speaking of getting out of the way, Daniel Swanbeck has gotten around Corey Condit.
Very nice. So we're going to now have a new second step of the podium position at the moment. But you know what? Tristan, there's 16 and 50 to go. Lots can change.
That can change. And Troy Shooter, by the way, creeped up. He's earned back another one of his places by overtaking Scott McPherson. Scott McPherson is actually dropping here, so I do worry maybe something's happened to his car.
Yeah.
Because usually when we see a racer just going down, down, down like that, there's a good reason for it. I haven't heard any calls over the net, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's not tapped out. And if I look over into the pit right now, I do see a car that looks suspiciously like
could be
Scott McPherson's car sitting there. And that's unfortunate because his 6th lap, which is the one that he just did, was his fastest.
Troy Shooter's often one of our faster drivers out here, so to see him climbing through the order, not surprising. He's got to get past to 2 more Formula Continental cars, both Jace Petty and Mark Peller, to put himself on the Formula Continental podium. Corey Condit, who's up there, is the first-place car in FE2, so he's not part of that battle for class up front, but, of course, there's always the battle for glory. I always want to be the first person to take the checkered flag, but Dutch Schultz goes purple again now with a 146.9. Just a couple ticks of a blink of an eye faster. A couple ticks of a blink of an eye. I have no idea what kind of English is coming out of my mouth at this point.
It's been a long day.
It has been. All right, you know what? We're right at the halfway point. Let's do this. Why don't you give us our mid-race recap?
Sure thing. Starting at the back right now, you have number 16, or in 16th, number 2, Kim Wilcox. In 15th, number 6, Jeff Anderson. In 14th, number 35, Johnny Crean. In 13th, number 2, Thomas Brown. In 12th, number 10, Richard Gray. In 11th, number 9, David Freitas. In 10th, number 89, Ben Valentine. Number 9 is, or in 9th is number 57, Nicholas Coe. In 8th is number 18, EJ Abbott. In 7th is number 64, Noah Hambai. 6th, number 87, Troy Shooter. 5th, number 24, Jace Petty. 4th, number 3, Mark Peller. In 3rd, number 37, Corey Condit. 2nd, number 7, Daniel Swanbeck. And then your race leader, setting his fastest lap on lap 8 at a 146.957, is number 84, Dutch Schultz.
All right, 14 and just over 14 minutes to go here. Final race of the day. Want to give a big thank you to all of the volunteers who are standing out in this heat to help us get these races done. We can't go racing without them. Everybody from our starters to our flaggers to our grid workers, our tech workers, timing and scoring, our control operators here, stewards. I'm going to miss somebody. I always do.
Registration.
Actually, maybe the most important people.
Social media. We have a social media.
We have a social media queen. I heard her referred to as.
I heard that as well. Yeah.
Today, so and she does a great job, by the way.
We got a full gamut now.
That's right. Social media game has been upped big time.
Announce.
If you're watching, please smash the like button and subscribe. That would be awesome. It sounds like our network is back up, so we should have more cameras tomorrow. That is my hope. This was one of those situations where it was 100% out of my control.
The nature of the beast, I'm afraid.
That's right. Technology is great until it's not. 13 to go here. If you want to find out more information about coming out to join us and having some fun out here, maybe volunteering or taking your car out on the racetrack in one of our track events, come on by and check out calclub.com, or if you're here in Southern California, there's also all over the country SCCA regions doing races. Our big Super Tour is at Watkins Glen this weekend, and a couple weeks from now be the epic Chicago region WeatherTech June Sprints at Road America. I'll be on the broadcast call for that weekend because we won't be racing here. But a lot of stuff you can find all around the United States. SCCA.com for all of that and then some.
Well, the number 57 car of Nicholas Coe there with an off and on, or a spin, I should say, and continue down on turn number 12. So the grapevine, yet again, surprise, Ryan, continues to be the bugbear for this particular crew. Whether I like it or not. And you see more dust kicked up over there on the grapevine, so it claims yet another victim. And you hate to see it, but it really has been hard for some drivers to handle coming out of the dog leg into the elevation change and the turn. They tend to be taking it wide too. Most of the people we see kind of go off tend to go real wide and kick up a whole lot of dust.
Coming up on the final 10 minutes of our racing action here today.
Yeah, Troy Shooter, by the way, has made his way all the way up now, where he only has Jace. Let's see, he's got Jace Petty, and then he's got Mark Peller, and then he can maybe start to challenge Daniel Swanback, Dutch Schultz. I mean, that's still a ton of gap to make up right there.
Right.
But he's done very well for himself, considering he started that whole run back in, what was that, 11th place. He's gone up 5 now, so it's been a good race for him. He must be absolutely kicking himself, though, that he had such a bad start, because putting in the times he's been putting in, he would be close to that first place spot if he had just been able to maintain. That said, though, speaking of first place, Dutch Schultz just continues to get faster and faster here. You wouldn't know he was coming towards the end of his race, the way he's pulling it together. A 146.702 there, and that's his best lap so far of the day on lap number 10.
Doing some math, which we've already established is not my strong suit.
Not anyone's strong suit.
Troy Shooter has to make up almost 10 seconds to get on the podium here, and
Oh, boy.
I don't think that's a big ask here with only 10 minutes to go. But we will watch. And the other thing is, there's the old adage: it's one thing to catch a person, it's another thing to pass them. So he's got to make up 10 seconds and pass 2 in-class cars who certainly don't want to let that happen. So
No, certainly not. And 10 seconds, that's almost a second a minute. I just don't know that he's got that intense of a race in him, especially considering he's quite a ways behind Jace Petty in and of themselves. And we hyped up Jace Petty a little bit as a young driver who is quite talented. So Troy Shooter with his work cut out for him right there. I mean, the backside of the FCs too, it does seem a little solid. Mark Peller and Jace Petty have not shifted much for the last couple of laps, both in terms of their lap time and their overall position. Even if you go all the way to the top here, I just don't see Daniel Swanback catching Dutch Schultz, who is a good almost 6 seconds ahead of him. And Schultz has slowed down by maybe a second. So he's almost equal to Daniel Swanback in terms of times. And Swanback would need to go faster. And I just don't see it happening right now.
a little less than 9 minutes to go.
Giving a weather eye on things here, but everybody's sort of shaken out into their respective places. A little bit of push and pull here back way down in the pack between 11th and 12th. It's Ben Valentine and Richard Gray respectively, but neither of them really, in that intense of an actual race. Johnny Crean, by the way, in the only FX car, is a good 20-something seconds ahead of his closest racer. That's Jeff Anderson, one of the only 2 S2s. Back to the top of the order here for the Dutch Schultz FC car, and he has slowed down by another second. So Daniel Swanbeck slowly picking up speed, slowly closing that gap. Really now becoming a matter of time here. Dutch Schultz's decreasing speed is of great interest to me, Brian. I must be honest, because I'm not sure exactly why he'd be easing off the gas at this point in time in the race. I mean, maybe tires. I'm not sure.
That could be tires. Could be just trying to milk that car to the finish, but he's got only a 5.5 second lead over Swanbeck. So, and that is a class battle. We'll see what it looks like when they cross the line the next time. And Troy Shooter has not made up any time on Jace Petty this last lap. They're actually just 0.2 of a second. So unless Peller or Petty have an issue, which is always possible, there is...
We've seen it happen today.
We have. So, but right now it looks like that's kind of the order that's going to be. I think the only thing in question right now is if Schultz is slowing down, does Swanback have enough to be able to catch up here in these final closing moments?
Yeah, that's the, I think, big question to look at right now. I'm sure Daniel Swanbeck thinks he has something.
Sure.
I don't know if he has anyone telling him in his ear how things are going, but if he does, I'm sure it will give him a little bit of encouragement. to know that he's actually creeping up there. Whoa. Well, he creeped up in a big way. I don't know exactly what happened there, but he is now in the lead.
Oh.
And Dutch Schultz, something bad has occurred somewhere down the line because he is dropped behind Corey Condit, now dropped behind Mark Peller as well. That's going to be Dutch Schultz will come across the line. Didn't hear it called on the flag net, so I have no idea what happened there. But we did say every once in a while somebody messes up. Unfortunately, it was Dutch Schultz who messed up. Not anyone else we necessarily expected.
And Dutch Schultz right now needs to be careful. First of all, that was a 22-second whatever happened. I don't know what it was, but it was a 22-second slower lap than Daniel Swanbeck. But right now, Jace Petty's only 2 seconds back from Dutch Schultz with 5 minutes left to go in this race. That's plenty of time if he is running faster, and we'll see what Dutch Schultz does this time by. See if he's been able to recover from whatever the incident was, whether it was at an off track or whether the car is having issues. But we'll know a whole lot more as we continue on watching the final moments of this race.
I mean, it seems like the kind of thing that would happen for, a spinning continuer and off and on. I just didn't necessarily hear a call for it. Now, it could just be that I missed it, but certainly an interesting development right there because Dutch Schultz, he had been going. I mean, he was hauling around this track. And he must be very frustrated indeed at the moment. Maybe a glimmer of opportunity here for Jace Petty to crawl his way up into third place overall if he can pull us together. Certainly an inspirational moment, if nothing else. Down deeper in the pack, Ben Valentine and Richard Gray still kind of going at it. Richard Gray about 1 second behind Ben Valentine. It's the closest we have of the racers that are down there currently. Daniel Swanbeck swanning across the line right there. Corey Condit not far behind. Here comes Mark Peller. And we'll keep an eye here on Dutch Schultz and Jace Petty. And it's a tight little group there. Dutch Schultz, though, he will come across with a good 2.5 seconds ahead of Jace Petty. So whatever issue he had, he has essentially stabilized, though his time has gone way down. When I say way down, I mean a matter of maybe 2 seconds, but still significant considering the times that he was putting up. He's gone back down to a much slower pace, and it looks like he's stuck in that third place in class, fourth place overall.
It does appear that whatever happened was more of likely an off-track excursion than a mechanical problem because he's now pretty much back up on pace. Maybe not the pace he was running early, but no one's probably running the pace that they were running early either.
Right. I mean, just as the race goes on, drivers get tired, tires wear down.
Tires get tired. Motors get tired.
Car gets tired.
That's right. Coming up on 3.5 minutes to go. I'm going to guess 2 more laps next time by.
Seems
as fast as these cars are. Maybe 1 more. No, probably 2 more next time by.
Yeah, it seems a reasonable estimate. It wouldn't surprise me, just given the way things are going. Here we go again. Should be coming up towards the top. There's a pass from Daniel Swanbeck, pushing himself ahead. Corey Condit following 4.5 seconds behind. Now we'll see Mark Peller, Dutch Schultz, Jace Petty. See how that has kind of worked itself out.
And it looked like Jace Petty was right there.
He was.
Next to Dutch Schultz, but maybe I was looking at a different group of cars.
I think he might have been for a while, and then he sort of tapped out right there. Troy Shooter has managed to close that gap.
That's what I was seeing. It was Troy Shooter going around Noah Humbaya, I think.
Troy Shooter has gotten within 3.5 seconds of Jace Petty, but 2 more laps to go. You were right. I hear that on the race net. So the next time around, we'll see that white flag. Don't think Troy Shooter makes it back into the top 3 or even past Jace Petty in that time.
Well, I will say, though, Troy Shooter's last lap was 2 seconds faster than Jace Petty.
That's true.
So not over yet, but it's going to be a tall order.
He is certainly, I mean, again, I feel bad for him that he had such a rough first lap, because if he was up in second or first, he'd be well into that position. Unfortunately, down deeper in the order, one of the Formula Continentals, that's number 2, Thomas Brown, he has got a flat and has spun out on the third turn, so he is done for this race.
Well,
At least he made it halfway.
there you go. That's the most important part for some of these drivers, to make sure it's an official finish. Some of these drivers might be going out there trying to get their license signed off to become a full licensed driver, and finishes are real important for that too. White flag is in the air. Daniel Swanbeck across the line for the second to last time.
You know what? Credit to Corey Condit. He's actually closed up to 2.6 seconds behind Daniel Swanbeck. He's not going to make it, but that's an impressive effort. And Dutch Schultz, he holds on in that 4th place, and if he holds on to it, he will come in at 3rd overall in the Formula Continental. Jace Petty is about 8.7 seconds behind. Troy Shooter, I mean, he's made up time, 2.9, but he's not catching Jace Petty in a lap.
Yeah, not unless there's an issue.
Not unless there's an issue.
I'm guessing maybe Jace Petty got caught up in some slower cars, and that was what
Yeah.
he was having a hard time getting around, but seems to be back up to pace now.
So same story for Corey Condit as well. Will not be catching at this point in time. Daniel Swanbeck still well holding the lead. Watching him come around now, and he's just powering forward. He's got no real issues here. Comes out of 11 up into the grapevine, holding position. I see his green and black car, the old Xbox colors there on that FC. Just watching as it plays out, we should be seeing the checkered flag. He's down in the bit of the track. Unfortunately, we can't really see, but we'll distinctly get him when he comes back into view. He should be coming up to Sunrise any second now. There he is. Whipping around the corner. Here he comes down the stretch. Daniel Swanbeck, checkered flag is out and waved, and he crosses the finish line. A great race for him. 3 positions up to take first place in the race overall and in the Formula Continental. Corey Condit should not be far behind him in second. Will win the FE2 category. Here comes Mark Peller, Dutch Schultz, and then Jace Petty. We'll go ahead and give you our full field rundown here at the end of the race because I don't think much is shifting there. Your overall race winner, number 7, Daniel Swanbeck. In second place, number 37, Corey Condit. In third, number 3, Mark Peller. Hey, if the shoe fits, I guess. In fourth, number 84, Dutch Schultz. In fifth, number 24, Jace Petty. In sixth, number 87, Troy Shooter.
Look at how close Troy Shooter was at the end.
He was so close at the end.
Wow.
0.131. He really was putting on the speed there. Jace Petty lucky to hold on to his spot. Noah Hambai, the number 64 car, is in 7th place. In 8th, number 18, EJ Abed. In 9th, number 9, David Freitas. Followed by Thomas Brown, Ben Valentine, Richard Gray, Nicholas Coe, Jeff Anderson, and Johnny Crean.
Well, that's going to do it for a good, safe day of racing here at Buttonwillow. We're going to come back out and do it again tomorrow at around noon Pacific time. We hope you'll join us. Tristan, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
I'm Brian Polanski. That's going to do it. These are the Cow Club SCCA Divisional races brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.